Right. All right, all right. Oh, so that's how you do it. Okay. Copy. Okay, so that's how you get it from not sharing. Uh, uh, oh boy. All right, so maybe it didn't work. It says I'm live. I can't tell. Let me see. Okay. Am I? All right. I guess I can't do that again. I don't know if I'm live or not. Let me. That's weird. And my phone had like a glitch. All right, come on, come on. Okay, so I'm not live. All right, so I don't think I'm live. So, all right, because my phone don't say I'm live. So let me try to go live again. It says it says I'm live, but I can't see that I'm live. YouTube is wild. I can't see anything. I went to go. All right, let me change my YouTube account. Let me go to FBA News and Updates because the channel I'm on now doesn't say I'm live. All right, but when I try to start a live, it says I'm already live. It's like the weirdest thing ever. Okay. All right. Sometimes you got to change your account to see if you're live. All right. So, all right. So now I see that I'm live. That was like the weirdest thing ever. All right. So I'm gonna play a couple reactions to content creators, uh, videos on Peace to Claus and then the True Warrior Scholar, Maxwell Jenkins, and the family. And thank you for the jewels and gifts, whatever. Let me go ahead and put the Zoom thing in there. Okay. So I guess that ain't okay. All right, cool. Got it. Got it. So Unbiased Ron has the premium account. FBA News doesn't. So it's funny when I go live, I can't play a video under FBA News updates because you're gonna get commercials. So I gotta switch to Unbiased Ron. All right. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Get them boys. Cop right there. Get them. You ain't see that car black running that red light, my guy. You worry about me? So you gonna act like you ain't see that cop run that red light? I mean that car run that red light. That's crazy. That is hilarious. I mean he seen him run right in front of him. FBA CJ. I'm with Alice. Okay. So it said my phone was hot, so it closed. All right, there we go. All right, so now let me switch to Unbiased Ron. All right, cool. Here we go. All right. All right, so I want to start with Coon Demics first. All right. I want to get a bunch of mixed reactions. Let's start, as long as it ain't too long. Let's start with Kundemics first. And I guarantee you, they all going to leave out one thing. And I'm going to bring that up a little later. The one thing everybody's going to leave out. I didn't watch this before. I seen it. I said, all right, let me share it.
Is whether what happened was murder or self-defense. We're one of the only media outlets in the courtroom giving you all the details of what is happening in real time. I'll also tell you why a witness's testimony caused the family of the victim, Austin Metcalf, to step out today. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Days of testimony from prosecution witnesses. The defense called Anthony's track coach as its first witness. And from the moment he took the stand, jurors heard a different account of what happened in the moments leading up to the deadly confrontation. All right, before we jump into Karmelo Anthony's side of the story, I want to get with Court TV's Cody Thomas inside the courtroom once again today.
Oh my God, this guy ain't
Cody,
gonna
let's talk about how the state finished their case. And they call a witness today
He's
who's kind of the
Texas.
link between Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf. He was teammates with Austin Metcalf, knew Karmelo Anthony to some extent. His name is Eddie. Why was his testimony important?
So we've heard this Eddie character's name, Chris, throughout the entire duration of all the student witnesses that have taken the stand. He is the common denominator. We heard a lot of people saying Karmelo knew Eddie. He came over and dapped Eddie up, gave him a handshake. Eddie was a childhood friend of Karmelo's now ex-girlfriend. So that's the connection there. Now, based on all the testimony that the students brought up during the prosecution's case, they were all saying that Eddie and Karmelo looked like they knew each other. It was the obvious link. And that's what the defense kind of talked about in their opening statements. Of course, some people under the tent said they didn't know who Karmelo was, but they looked over, he was sitting next to Eddie. Everything came back to this guy named Eddie. All right. So I was thinking, as I've been sitting there for the past few days, that Eddie was going to be a defense witness, because if he's great friends with Karmelo, then obviously, he'd fend for his friend, I would say. But one thing I was thinking before he got called was, if he knew Karmelo, why wouldn't he stand up and let everybody know, when all the commotion started, hey, this is my friend, he's here with me, blah, blah, blah. Everything's cool. But never heard that from any of the students' testimony. But anyway, Eddie gets on the stand today. They're going through his testimony. He's about 5 or 10 minutes in. And then Eddie kind of all but says he knew who Karmelo was. They were cool, but he verbally said, I wouldn't say we were friends. It was just kind of someone that he knew. Okay, cool. Now we move on to the cross-examination by the defense. And this is, I feel, was a little bit of a win for the defense. They showed a whole bunch of pictures of Eddie.
Now you see why I'd rather just be friends with FBAs and at least those are diaspora. FBAs in the Caribbean, that's it. That's it. And that's it. Because they'll do that to you. They will do that to you. They will pretend they never knew you. That's why I'd rather just not be phony. There's so many FBAs. Now, I ain't going to mind. You dig? We'll just shoot pool and bowl. That's about as far as, maybe the bar. Watch the game. That's as far as we going. But nothing too personal.
Eddie and Karmelo at these different group settings at Eddie's house, no less. There was 50th birthday party, you would say. So when they had these family functions, Karmelo obviously was there. Okay, they showed some group photos, kind of establishing. And then here's another defense win to me today. They showed photos of Karmelo and Eddie together, just being teenagers goofing off. One is playing a guitar. They're making silly faces at the camera. So Eddie gets up there under direct examination saying, yeah, I know him, but, I wouldn't say he's a friend. But then the defense pushes back and is like, hey, if you're not friends, why do you have all these pictures together? But the crux of Eddie's testimony today, though, Chris, was that he definitely got emotional talking about Austin's death. He said Austin was like a brother to him. He said that on the stand. And when he was describing, everything that he saw that day, when he came back and saw Austin had a hole in his chest, he immediately choked up and started crying instantly. They had to walk up there and give him Kleenex. And there were some new people in the gallery today, Chris. There were 5 young boys, presumably former teammates, former classmates of Austin Metcalf's. And when they were describing that as well, 3 of those 5 boys started crying themselves. And, these are, big football player-esque guys, and they were crying too, just showing the emotional weight that this still carries. And, Karmelo sitting there, he's taking it all in. I'm looking at him on his, at his table with his defense as this testimony is going on, still sitting there stoic. I don't know what's going through his head. I'm sure he's realizing the gravity of what's going down, but his defense, the state rested today. So his defense is up, and they've called 3 witnesses so far, 2 students included, one of those being one of Karmelo's friends too.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of time spent for both the prosecution and the defense kind of establishing like why Karmelo Anthony was under this tent, because from the state's perspective, they've hammered this like tent culture of track and field where it's like you don't go under the tent of another school. But then with this Eddie character coming into play, like the defense is really trying to show that like Karmelo may have been invited under the tent. That's why he's there. I wonder just how much any of that matters, because I just think of like if you're a juror, it's like, when do you enter like the bubble of the information that matters, of like the interaction when we talk about things escalating to the point where Austin Metcalf, maybe it's a hard shove, maybe it's a soft shove, that happens. And then you have Karmelo Anthony responding with this stab wound that eventually takes Austin Metcalf's life. And that kind of leads to a witness that came, one of the final witnesses for the state today, the medical examiner who conducted the autopsy on Austin Metcalf. And before we talk about that part of it, I know you've been sitting kind of near the family of Austin Metcalf. And I know there's been body cam video, there's been 911 calls. I mean, it's just the weight of what they're going through. It's just hard to imagine. What did you see prior to that witness being called?
So, the student witnesses wrap up, and there was this sort of announcement. All the media, as you mentioned, we're all sitting behind Austin Metcalf's family. All 9 members of the media are behind them. So before this medical examiner comes up, there's an announcement that she's going to be the next witness, to which the prosecution turns around. If you don't want to see or hear about any of these things, I'd advise you to leave the courtroom, because now you're about to get into, the injuries and talking about them. And I was sitting there thinking we were going to see the injuries. We didn't. The jury got to see 4 pictures of it, but us in the gallery did not see those things, but they were describing it in detail. So anyway, the prosecution announces medical examiner's coming in. If you don't want to hear any of this, go out. Austin Metcalf's mom gets up and goes out immediately, along with some other family members and some people in their camp as well. His dad, Jeff Metcalf, initially said no. He nodded his head. I was sitting right behind him. He said he didn't want to leave. And then the prosecutor kind of makes a face and just goes, I advise you to leave. I could hear it was kind of a whisper. It wasn't, an announcement. It was more so a direct to him, to which Jeff Metcalf finally got up and left. And, we heard about this 2-inch gaping wound. She described gaping, and she described the difference between gaping and a slit style stabbing wound. Where gaping is more of it's kind of like filleted open, not to be insensitive to it, but that's the way she kind of described it on the stand. And that it was a 2-inch deep wound that hit the cartilage of Austin Metcalf's sternum and actually pierced one of the ventricles in his heart. So he was literally stabbed in the heart, which is likely why the CPR and life-saving efforts weren't working, because no matter how much the heart was pumping out, it was leaking, from the source. So it was really establishing the gravity of the wound. And the jury, again, got to see 4 pictures. 2 of them were Austin Metcalf on the autopsy table, and 2 of them were the heart removed from the body. That's what the medical examiner was describing they were seeing. So, of course, I'd imagine that a family didn't want to hear that. So mom, dad, and some other people, I don't know who they were, maybe the aunts and uncles, maybe it's just family, friends, and supporters of the Metcalf family. They all got up and left, about 7 or 8 of them.
And I wonder too.
So I know you might be wondering like why we're still watching this. I'm trying to like have an opinion on this. Based on everything I know and I've heard, they get in this argument, get from under our tent. No, I'm not. Dude is probably like, get from under my tent. Yo, chill out. I'm not going nowhere. Then it turns into, yo, don't touch me. And then the guy, I guess he pushes him or something of the sort, or I don't know if he punches him. And then the knife comes out. There's thoughts of maybe this kid was getting bullied. There's thoughts of, oh, maybe he was only told to get out of there because maybe of his race. even though they're claiming it's the culture of like track meets where like, no, this is our tent. Like we don't have the fucking other team sharing our tent. I don't know. It feels like, obviously it's a racial thing, but it's kind of tough, if you ask me, to justify him murdering the guy. It's tough. Unless there's something I'm not seeing, right? Did the guy have a weapon too? Was he getting jumped? I don't know. I'm looking for those details.
Too, I mean, I know from the first responders who were there, the people who interacted with Karmelo Anthony right after all of this took place, where it seemed like...
So are y'all going with the bullying angle, that he was getting bullied and that was his fight back? Well, that's also a defense if you go down that route. But that might also, well, you could probably run that with a self-defense defense. Yeah. I'm wondering, did they do that? Did they go with this bullying angle? Because usually in domestic violence cases, when a woman kills a man, so say a woman ends up stabbing a guy, they usually look for like crime of passion, or they'll look for, oh, okay, she was getting constantly beat by her husband and she snapped, insanity or something of the sort to kind of, take the sting off the murder charge. But even then, like, based on some of these circumstances, if maybe there was some blurriness or haziness in the evidence or in the situation period, I'm wondering why manslaughter wasn't the thing and it was just straight up murder. The jury must have thought they got overwhelming evidence from the prosecutor, or the defense didn't do anything at all to convince them that it's not murder. And that's what they put down in terms of the verdict. The verdict was for murder.
He didn't think that what had happened was going to lead to Austin Metcalf's death. But then you hear about, the medical examiner, I think, straight up said something along the lines of like, there's no way that he could have survived this. Even if he was on an operating table, like a surgeon might not have been able to save him. The wound was that bad.
It absolutely was that bad. And those are the exact words that she said. And then one word that stood out to me, Chris, that she said, she starts describing the 5 manners of death, and to which she, classified this one as a homicide. And when she explained homicide to the jury, she said the intentional, bringing about of death by another human being. But the key word to that to me was, Chris, and I thought the prosecution would harp on a little bit, was intentional. It wasn't like accidental. It wasn't this and that. She said the intentional causing of harm that results in death by another human being. So I thought that was a powerful thing, that she said on the stand.
And you just wonder, too, like a statement like that, just that one line. And then I also know from some of these student witnesses who have just very...
Okay, I feel like I need to hear maybe another opposing view. I would love to hear someone who is pro Karmelo Anthony, because right now we know he's guilty. But I would love to hear someone who's pro Karmelo Anthony kind of explain why, in their opinion, they would believe. Again, I haven't kept up with the case that much to be able to, like, 100% lock down an opinion either or. Right now, I am kind of reacting and kind of feeling like I'm on the side of, the nature of the injury, the stabbing. Even if he was bullied, he was going to go to jail for something. I think manslaughter would have been a lucky thing. But if someone is bullying you or they pushed you or whatever, and you just stab them to death, anyway.
Very bluntly said they don't believe that this is self-defense. We're going to talk about the defense side of things here in a moment, and kind of from Karmelo Anthony's perspective, what they're trying to say. But you just wonder.
Okay, let me get to the defense side of things.
Which valid if he did. So this coach gets up there and he's talking about how Karmelo was this athlete who's on the football team, and they presented an exhibit of what they call the Captain's Awards at his school, to which you see Karmelo's name engraved as the captain in 2024 during his fall senior season. And they also pointed out that is voted upon by the students, pretty much trying to show that, Karmelo Anthony is a reputable guy. He's somewhat of a leader. He looks like a leader to his classmates and his teammates. So they talked about that for a little bit. And then they got into the, we've heard the tent culture. That was what a lot of this has been, that phrase has been circulating around in the courtroom, talking about each tent is like each locker room for each team. Therefore, people should not be hanging under the tents. Well, this coach was saying, I get that, but at the same time, I guess it's the discretion of each coach. Whereas we had the coach from Memorial High School, that was the absolute first witness or the second witness by the prosecution, talking about how, strict he is and how, he enforces his rules. And we had that several student witnesses talk about how Coach Robert Starr, that's the coach for Memorial High School, has been strict. It's garnered some laughs inside the courtroom when they talk about how strict he was. But this coach here today was saying, there was times where athletes from another school would come under my tent when I'm there and, ask if they could be there. And I was like, yeah, we'll chill out and watch the 200 meters. But what the prosecution harped on during that, when they got under cross-examination, was, he specified when you were there as a coach, as a supervising individual versus, just the teenagers running free, because this coach also specified that they like to have a coach at the tents at all times just to watch teenagers, not thinking about crimes. You got boys, you got girls, you got a thing in line with a bunch of teenagers. So, started off with, positivity for Karmelo, which obviously his side is in support of. But when it got to cross-examination, it just seemed like the prosecution was just ready for everything that this coach had to say and tried to dispute anything that was being said.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna. We might have to circle back on this. I know the verdict just came down. We're getting a lot of other people kind of chiming in, but we will we will come back to this.
All right. So just I touched on this a little earlier. I'm just get back to this
I would argue
right here.
ordinary self-defense. Or this is where Karmelo has a problem. Me first. Those things come in. But see, here's the problem. Raising self-defense isn't the same as winning self-defense. And see, this is where Karmelo has a problem. Let's look at another code. Texas Penal Code, Section 931 covers ordinary self-defense. Ordinary. In other words, a person can use force when he reasonably believes force is immediately necessary to protect himself against another person's unlawful force.
But didn't they say that Karmelo got jumped? If it's more than just Austin jumping him, he got 5 kids on him. I can reasonably say that I'm in fear for my life.
That was something that I heard pre-trial, but that's not what them 21 witnesses came up there and said.
Yeah, that's nothing. Like, we gotta stop. Like we and this is why I'd be upset when we talk about different things, history, lineage, reparations. When people come over here with rumors, it's like I heard Marcus Garvey saved the Black nation. Like, what? I heard Stokely Carmichael created the endonym Black. Richard, the guy Revenue said, like, yo, what? So I have an issue with people just misinformation, man. So there's a lot of rumors, like you said, pre-trial, a lot of rumors thrown out. Like a lot of rumors were against Karmelo, a lot of rumors were for him. So like people just pick and chose the rumors that they ran with. Obviously, if you were against Karmelo, you ran with the rumors that was against him. If it was for Karmelo, you ran with the rumors that was with him or for him. But at the end of the day, they're all rumors, and people running with the rumors as though they were facts.
Were all memorial students and staff members, right?
And the 4 witnesses that testified for the defendant didn't come up and say that. Now that's what we heard.
Now that right there, Willie, that shows you how DUMB people are. That's why what I do is well, in this one we couldn't, but in the Cyrus one, I played both witness accounts. I played the witness account for the defendant and for the states. When I was siding with Cyrus, when I was siding with the son, siding with his dad. Like, so I don't like to blindly just give opinions and don't know a lot of the facts. And that's what a lot of people do. Look, you didn't know that?
Preliminarily, but that's not what's before the jury. Now, if you want to change the scenario, I would argue that if you got 4 people surrounding you and you getting stomped out, you on the ground getting battered and bruised, and you feel like your life is in danger, and you come up with a blade and you put one of them out of their misery, I would say that's necessary. But see, that's not ordinary self-defense. And see, I'm gonna get to that in a minute. See, let me get here. A person can use force when he's reasonable.
Yeah, that's the thing. He was trying to break down ordinary self-defense. He was going to clearly introduce extraordinary, and then Willie D cuts in. He's a bad interviewer, man. He's a bad interviewer. He does this a lot. Like, dude, relax, my guy. Like, they about to tell you, like, the difference. Like, we all tuned in. Okay, that's ordinary. So what's extraordinary? Here's a hypothetical. Like, dude, let the dude break it down, man. You got the expert on there for this reason. Cutting in like a fool.
Believes force is immediately necessary to protect himself against another person's unlawful force. So if Austin pushed, grabbed him, or tried to move him, which is what the evidence showed, Karmelo had the right to push back. He had a right to still off on Austin. He had the right to drop them Fifth Ward Bs on him. You understand what I'm saying? He had a right to do that. Okay. He had a right to swing on Austin's jaw with the haymaker from the promised land. He had a right to do that. But that's different than using deadly force. That's different. That's very different. See, Texas Penal Code section 9.32. And I don't want to, we're not doing a law school class, but I got to lay this foundation because I know a lot of people are going to watch this and I want to give them the reference. There's a difference between ordinary force in response as opposed to deadly force. When is deadly force justified? If the person would be justified in using force.
Wait, before you go. And that's why I'm trying to get y'all to understand. Now, I don't know the law like he does. He's an attorney. I'm not. But people was using self-defense it covers all type of actions. And I was saying, okay, I was trying to say people's like, that's self-defense. But self-defense don't mean you get to delete somebody. I was trying to explain that, articulate that, but I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how to, but now I do. Okay, so you got self-defense, which is non-deadly. I think I actually said that. You got self-defense that's deadly. So yeah, you always got the right to defend yourself, but you don't always got the right to use deadly force. That's what I was trying to say earlier.
You look as opposed to deadly force. Because I know a lot of people are going to watch this and I want to give them the reference. There's a difference between ordinary force in response as opposed to deadly force. When is deadly force justified? If the person would be justified in using force, you look at that statutes, Texas Penal Code section 9.32 and 9.31. When a person reasonably believes, and that's a very important statement, reasonably believes that deadly force is immediately necessary to protect himself against another person's use or attempt to use unlawful deadly force or to prevent certain serious crimes like aggravated kidnapping or murder or sexual assault or aggravated assault or robbery or something like that. You have a right to use deadly force. And for you all who don't like that, and I know it's some people who are going to be mad at me. All right. Where's the deadly force coming from Austin's side? I get the fact that he pushed him, Willie D. I get the fact that I get the fact that he might have jacked him up like a linebacker, but where's the weapon? Where's the knife? Where's the gun? Where's the baseball bat? Huh? Where's the evidence that he was about to suffer serious bodily harm from being shoved? Now you mentioned that, we were on the incline.
Yes, yeah.
I get that. Okay. I get that. I get what you said, and it could have happened. All right, it could have happened, right? But again, I don't see a knife. I don't see a bat. There's no evidence that the boy was being jumped. And see, Texas. Go ahead, brother.
Normally, Dennis, what a lot of people like to say is, look how big he was. Look how much bigger he was than me. That right there, he could have killed me because he's so big. We've seen.
And before he even respond, so that means that women just got the right just to delete every man that argues with them. See, like, or any elderly person gets to delete anybody who is younger than them, significantly younger than them. And if you get to any argument with an elderly person, they got the right to delete you because your size, your youth compared to theirs, you could have been a deadly force, a deadly threat. Nah, that's not how that works. Every woman you argue with as a man could just delete you. Because if you wanted to go left with her, you could have. So I had to defend myself because if he wanted to go left, he could have. Like, that's not how that works, man. Let the attorney break it down.
In many cases like this, where guys who tower over other guys end up dead the little guy killed him, and they say, well, you know, I can see, I would be scared, I would be in fear for my life also.
All right, so now we talk about reasonableness. And so now what is we got two 17-year-old boys here. One of them is about 6'1", the other one is about 5'8", 5'9". I done seen many a 5'8" dude put hands on a 6 foot plus dude and lay him out. I'd set up, I'm over at Reverend Ray Martin's gym all through the 2000s watching dudes get their hat handed to them, messing with the wrong one. I'm talking about somebody 5'4", okay, putting hands on somebody 6'2". Go ahead. I know you a boxer yourself. You know what I'm saying?
We know that happens, right? Mm-hmm. But when you go into a courtroom, the argument is always, look how much bigger than he was. And the assumption is the bigger guy has the advantage.
The assumption is the bigger guy has the advantage. I get that. But again, just because he had the advantage, he didn't hit him, he pushed him. And in response, the boy came up with the blade and stuck him. And he bled out. Okay. So the question is, okay, and again, I want to go back to what the Texas law defines serious bodily injury as an injury that creates a substantial risk of death, causes serious permanent injury or disfigurement. Did that push rise to the level of something that a reasonable person would believe would cause the death or cause some sort of long-term impairment to a body part or a body organ? So again, the question is whether Karmelo, it's not whether or not he was embarrassed. It's not whether or not he was uncomfortable. It's not whether or not he was angry. It's not whether or not even that Austin put his hands on him. The question is whether Karmelo reasonably believed deadly force was immediately necessary. And I don't see that.
Well, let me ask you, what if like the police, and I know police got qualified immunity, but what if like the police, he genuinely, reasonably feared for his life because this big guy is towering over him and he got back up and all these guys are around.
Yeah, but like, let me say right now, that's a false equivalence. Like you can never use a police compared to a regular citizen. You can never do it. The police officer don't have no right to retreat. Like, yeah, like the law favors police officers on a whole nother level. Okay, like at some point we have to retreat and blah blah. Cannot retreat. He cannot retreat because he's there to protect lives. So if he retreated and something happened, you know, he might be liable for the things that just happened. So a police officer cannot retreat when he's in the duty of protecting lives. So you cannot compare a police officer to a regular citizen at all, ever. That's a false equivalence, and we will say bad faith argument.
Yeah, you know, he's surrounded by these guys. What if, is that an argument that the defense could have made?
I mean, that's an argument that he could have made, but he would have had to take the stance to put everybody in the mindset that he was in at the time, and he didn't take the stance. And see, it's a double-edged sword. You put this 17, I think he's 19 now, you put this 19-year-old boy on the stands, you subject him to cross-examination, and he goes off the rails and says some things that make the jury like him even less than they like him now. You see?
They don't like him now at all, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know,
hate him more than they hate him now.
Yeah, and again, we're not talking about a grown man who's had some life experience. We talk about a 17-year-old boy, you know, whose brain is not fully developed, right? Which is why we don't give kids knives in the first place. But the bottom line is, man, this situation happened in suburban Frisco, Texas, wide open daylight, football stadium, kids and coaches around. Okay, and you got two 17-year-old boys from a rival school. So my thing is this. Yeah, he might have been surrounded by some of Austin's football friends, but there were other people around. We can't assume, again, this is not a dark alley in Compton, California somewhere where nobody else is around. All right? Again, Austin was wrong. He shouldn't have put hands on the boy first. Okay, he shouldn't have tried to push him. He shouldn't have tried to force Karmelo out the tent. All right? But see, under Texas law, that doesn't justify using deadly force in response. You can push back. You can swing on them. Okay, but you can't pull a blade out and stab a person.
Hold on, family. 1 second. 1 second. It's just getting good. I gotta unshare for 1 second. Yeah, I've never seen this one. Yeah, I thought this was the one I thought this was the one I played earlier. It wasn't. So I'm so glad I'm so glad I played this. Give me 1 second. I'm at the ATM and I gotta make a deposit to send somebody the money, and I don't want my screen sharing who I'm sending money to. I mean, it's no big deal, nothing crazy, but it's personal. You feel me? I don't want y'all to know I'm sending money to my brother or brother-in-law or nephew or auntie. You dig? I ain't trying to do all that. Look at him by his auntie, need some cash, man. Look at his next door neighbor needing some sugar, whole bunch of sugar. You dig? All right, so give me a second. Yeah, we're gonna do some and the link is there if anybody call in. But again, I promote critical thinking. So the link is there, but also, okay. So how the hell I get that over here? Okay, how do I get that here? I'm trying to think. How do you? Um, I forgot. Hold on, family. I'm tripping. Oh my God, my phone gonna take forever to load, man. God damn. Okay, cool. All right, so now I need to do it this way. Hey, where's my song? How can I ease the pain when I know you're coming back again? How can I ease the pain in my heart? All right, hold on. Got a few more things to do. Folks don't be wanting cash. They want you to send it to them, you dig? They want they be wanting the wire transfer. They're like, nah, you can't give me cash, my guy. I'm nowhere near you. I'm in West Bubble. And that's the dope thing about this right here, these payments that you back in the day, I had to meet you, I had to come get you to give you the money. Nowadays, we could just do this right here. And like, nah, you good. And think about it, like our dads and older siblings, our dads, they ain't know nothing about this. It's like, you want to borrow what? And I gotta come bring it to you? Oh yeah, now you owe me that plus. You owe me that plus whatever else. All right, okay, hold on. So all right, 1 second. Almost done. Almost done. Come on. Slow ass. Pressing the damn thing. It better not disappear. Okay. Yeah, it almost did. It did it kind of. All right. Let me go back. Let me add another dollar. Okay. Cool. Okay. Let's. Okay. Cool. Okay. So I think it worked out. I think it went through. How can I ease the pain when I know you can? Yeah, I don't know. My screen is like white. Like, did it go through? I mean, it said it, then the screen went white. Hey, yo, listen, family. I've never noticed. I wonder when this started. I've never like my city, not just my city, the neighboring cities. We were all Black American family ever since delineation. I came back to Jersey. I've been looking, and all I like just now in the bank. The first guy I walk in was a Jamaican. I'm like, when I be at my other spot live, Jamaicans. I'm like, yo, was this always the case? And I just thought it was Black America. I never like thought about it, or did this just happen? Yeah, that is scary. I'm like, yo, when did this replacement happen? Like, yo, when did they get here like this? All right, 1 second, family. I mean, my PayPal just okay, cool. Are we good now? Everything is taken. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, like really, like the Jamaican representation in my city. This either this is brand new or this was always the case, and I just seen them as Black Americans. It's crazy. Every person I look at, I think is a Black American because of their skin tone. I look again, or I hear them, or I see how they dress, Jamaican or Haitian. I mean, literally replaced. Like, how we supposed to feel good about that? Like, nah, it's all good. Like, yo, nah, like for my people, that's how I had a great TikTok conversation with a young sister. She was asking these questions, like, how did we get replaced and when? I'm like, that right there. You know, we was looking at these guys as one of us, but the whole time, like, they only could be where we're at if we leave. I was telling the young sister, I said, yo, it's impossible to be replaced if y'all both live there. Cause you got to leave for them to rent or buy a home. Like you got to sell yours or you got to leave so they can rent. Same thing with the Latinos. Like, so it's like, yo, these folks was forcing us out. Like, either like not hiring you, but it was definitely a plan to like force you out. Maybe cops harassing you, not hiring you. You feel me? Something like that to make you get annoyed. Your neighbor, your landlord just beefing with you for no reason. But yeah, I find that really eerie. Like, yeah, what is this about? Like, I never noticed like this until like recently. Since I came back to Jersey, I'm looking at folks like damn, I never recall this many damn Jamaicans in my city and Haitians. All right. Um, I'm trying to look. Oh, okay. That makes sense. I got to switch accounts. How can I ease the pain? Okay. All right, so now I think, okay, cool. So I don't get no credit for that. That's interesting. Hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. How can I ease the pain? Okay, how? Yeah, how? Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to figure how. Wait. Send your when you to create. Okay, I'll do this later. I'll do this later. All right. Let's get back. Let's get back to where we were. It's almost that video's almost over. Let me add the phone number there real fast in case somebody want to call in. I ain't tell y'all I can't out of nowhere. I just cannot stand. I used to love the heat in summertime. As I got like near like the 40s, I can't stand the summertime. Can't stand it. I would rather it be a little like around 60, like 60 to 75 degrees is cool with me. Okay. So around 60 to 75 degrees is okay with me. 60, you can say 65, 75. If the weather stayed in between 65, 75, I'm good. I could take that. It's like 90 right now. I can't stand the summertime now. When I was young, you couldn't get me out the sun when I was young, when I was younger. I can't stand the sun now. Okay, so here's the phone number. So the link is already pinned. But this is for folks, the old school folks who got the rotary phone. Who say, man, I ain't about to click no link. I don't trust the government. You know, those folks. Right, here you go. Yeah, I got a friend who's watching the Knicks game. Yeah, he is hilarious. Uh, once the Knicks was losing, getting blown out early, it's a fix. Oh, this politics as usual. The Illuminati is the reason why. The Illuminati is controlling this game. They want the Spurs to win. Man, I went to bed, woke up. The Knicks won miraculously. I want to be like, I hit them up, but I lost track. But I want to be like, yo, so the Illuminati, they still controlling the game? Is it still politics as usual? Or, you know what I mean? Now what? And this is why I don't get into conspiracy theory stuff. When your team was getting blown out, it's a conspiracy theory. It's a setup. The refs are bought. But then the Knicks win, and the conspiracy theory is the fix is no longer fixed. The fix is out now. It was in, now it's out. Like, dude, man, that's why I have a high standard. Polo Styles, Ricardo Flott, Maxwell Jenkins, FBA Lineage Culture and History. I love that name. Yeah, so if y'all see, I'm using the word soul. You dig? I got a lot of play on soul. I like that word soul, so I've been using soul a lot. So I created a post and I said, yeah, okay. stomping and complaining about the injustice, right, that's going on with Black Americans and the Justice Department, right? We're not getting equal justice as white people, so complaining is natural. That's normal. Boycotting, protest, that's all normal symptoms of injustice. But that's a band-aid. Stomping your feet, protesting, boycotting, these are normal actions to injustice, but those are band-aids. I said I'm more into solutions. So you see, I said solutions, but I put soul there. I'm more interested in solutions. So I want as a matter of fact, that's my name, Mr. Solution. That's my new name, Mr. Solution. I want to bring as much attention to the anti-Black crime bill. Now, we gave all these unfortunate situations the most attention, going back to Sandra Bland, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Cyrus, recently Karmelo Anthony. We were all day long talking about that all day long, the racial stuff. Can y'all put that same energy in the anti-Black crime bill? Can we talk about that all day long, just as much as we talk about these racial conflicts all day long? Can we talk about an anti-Black crime bill all day long? Can we get can Willie D and Dennis Sperling debate that? Can academics bring that to a stage, right? I'm not even sure I heard Yvette Carnell talk about that too much, but she didn't. I will call in for that, like to talk about that with her. Yeah, I want to put that on her brain in case that's not there. I want to put that there. Yeah, man. But all these platforms that get clicks and views from unfortunate young youth and older folks who are not getting justice, race baiting. They love the race baiting information. Okay, so that, but the complaining, the symptoms, clicks and views. Okay, let's talk about the anti-Black crime bill. You know why they won't? That don't get you clicks and views. The media not going. The national media is not going to cover that. State media not going. Local media ain't going to cover that. They ain't going to help us signal boost the argument for an anti-Black crime bill, and that's what I'm on. You heard Tariq Nasheed talk about that, and you hear like the other FBA channels talk about that, but folks don't really want to talk about that. And when I talk about it, I go deep in depth. I talk about the anti-Asian crime bill in depth. I tell you what it's about, how it's no different than what we're asking for. It's a double standard to give that to them and tell us, and I even tell you why, factually, why America look at them as, nah, we'll give it to them, but not you. So I go into real depth with that, and I'm gonna do a live when I get time, because folks want to just do the clickbait stuff. So I don't want to find time for the realness anymore, because nobody likes it, nobody respects it. So I'm putting all that time in research and stuff, getting intel, getting information that's hard to come by. Sometimes I'll be the only one with it. I'll be the first to introduce it, just to get no reward. Like, what I mean? So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna keep my research simple. You feel me? All right. So anyway, let me bring up. Yeah, I'm gonna be simple like everybody else. All right. So let me play the rest of it. Dang, I thought that was it. Okay, let me play the rest of it. Yeah, I'm gonna be simple like everybody else. What's the point going further when there's no further reward? All right, let me play the rest of it. The more you know, the more you're despised. The less you know, the more you're liked. Or let's say this: the more you talk about, the more you disclose, the more truthful you are, the more you're despised. The less truth to power you speak, the more everybody likes you. But I'm a planner. I knew this day would eventually come because I'm too unbiased. Nobody likes unbiased people. Everybody wants yes men, yes women. Okay, nobody likes the unbiased person, the objective thinker. Everybody likes the yes man, yes woman. So I already had a backup plan. You dig?
Some of Austin's football friends, but there were other people around. We can't assume, again, this is not a dark alley in Compton, California somewhere where nobody else is around. All right? Again, Austin was wrong. He shouldn't have put hands on the boy first. Okay? He shouldn't have tried to push him. He shouldn't have tried to force Karmelo out the tent. All right? But see, under Texas law, that doesn't justify using deadly force in response. You can push back. You can swing on them. Okay? But you can't pull a blade out and stab a person and use deadly force. And see, the jury, even if they wanted to rule in favor of acquittal, they're going to have a hard time getting over that. See, Texas, go ahead.
Yeah, he's always cutting in. I do. Let him finish the end. He's giving us law facts. Let him finish. What do you think about? He's a horrible interviewer. Let them. You don't know he's not done. Like, yeah, I want to hear the rest of it. What do you think? What do you think about letting him finish? He wasn't done. Second time, he wasn't done. The first time, he was breaking down ordinary self-defense and deadly force. He cutting in. Like, yo, you don't know he's not done? Like, you trying to read your questions, get your questions off. Man.
There is this language, they call it the no duty to retreat language. Okay? We've heard that. Some people call it stand your ground. If a person has the right to be where he is, and he did, right? He hasn't provoked the person against him. He isn't engaged in any criminal activity. Then the law says he's not required to retreat before using force or deadly force. But no duty to retreat doesn't mean you have a free license to kill. You still have to meet the deadly force standard. You still have to reasonably believe deadly force is immediately necessary. And that's why, again, Karmelo not testifying matters.
They would have cooked him. But I like the word, the phraseology he put it. Reasonably believe deadly force is necessary. So now, folks, reasonably believe don't just go to you. It extends to the people who going to judge you. Like the jurors got to say, would the average man, woman who's pushed, would they reasonably their life's in danger and pull out a blade and use it? Like, would the average person in America, would the average American believe or respond like that over an aggressive push? And if you don't believe that, then you're gonna say, Karmelo, you're guilty. If you believe that, you're gonna say he's innocent.
Melo didn't have to take the stand. I said that before. I understand why a defense lawyer wouldn't want to put.
Nah, that would have been, no. Not his circumstances. They would have, they was waiting on him to join. They were waiting on him to join, to testify. Oh man, that was the best thing.
Their client up to testify in a murder trial, but without this testimony and without clear video footage showing exactly what happened, because they don't have that, then the jury they don't get to hear directly from him why he believed he was about to suffer death or serious bodily injury. They've got to accept these alleged statements. And I don't think it rises.
Yeah, and that's the thing, family. This guy's clear on their phone. This disgusting. She's got a flag, Dominican undocumented lady, and not driving. Like she's like, it's like she's brake checking, but she's on her phone. You feel me? It's like, she keeps stopping early, but she's on her phone. Yeah, when people can't drive on their phone, they start brake checking, and look how far she's from the next car. Should cut my damn camera. You guys can see. But now I don't want no stalking revenue to know my route. I'll be driving, start looking at streets. Oh yeah, I'm gonna catch them bias. I'm gonna sit here till I'm bias ride through here again.
To that level. I don't think that. It doesn't justify that. They still want to know, well, why'd you have the knife in the first place? If the Frisco school district policy is that you're not supposed to have a knife or anything that looks like a weapon on campus, and you have it with you, how do you? What is the jury doing? What are they? He's not supposed to have the knife in the first place. And so now you use the knife for deadly force. Now, again, some people may say, well, it was because initially I heard it was a cleat knife. Initially I heard, when it's a track meet, sometimes kids use cleat knives. He might have just got this knife that he had to sharpen his cleats, but he's not supposed to have it in the first place. And so you got to get around that. All right. And again,
what do you think was the most powerful piece of evidence that the prosecution presented?
The admission that he did it.
All right, so this is a criminal. You see, this just popped up, family. I never watched this. We're gonna watch it together. I never watched it.
All right, so we got a verdict not too long ago in this Karmelo Anthony murder case, and
again, the link is there. You dig? I got a phone number if you want to use that. You know what I mean? But all I'm gonna do is push you to critically think. That's all.
Take no delight in saying that, we were accurate with the prediction. Some people called it Captain Obvious in terms of my analysis from the prior video, but this was a relatively straightforward case when you think about it. And, I just actually got home.
I'll be TikTok later. You dig? I'll be TikTok later. My TikTok presence is growing. So I'm feeling that people joining the panel, like I'm becoming a household name to some people. People know I am already, and they pulling up. So that feels really good. And they're the youth. They're the youth. It's folks under 35. So and they look at me as like respect, like a elders type guy. And that's a great feeling, man.
My birthday, I wanted to go out for a birthday run and walk. I'm on a personal mission to get down to 10% body fat by the end of July so you can keep me. Relatively quickly, we had closing arguments this morning, and the jury came back after not deliberating for that long, and that is not much of a surprise. I think, they're obviously going to take the time to make sure that they get it right, but I think the decision was relatively easy for them to reach. And so that brings up something I wanted to talk about in terms of murder versus manslaughter, because
and I'm gonna try to find I'm gonna try to find a lawyer, because you see I'm doing all brothers. I want to find a lawyer, if there's one on YouTube, a Black American lawyer or anybody from the diaspora, right? That's defending, staying with Karmelo's defense argument, who's arguing it was self-defense. So if you guys, after this video, I'm gonna look in the chat. So if you guys got a lawyer that makes an argument for Karmelo, why he should have been acquitted and not found guilty, please put that in the chat. This is a 20-minute video. Once this is over, I'm gonna look in the chat. Okay, so once I end this video, I can't watch the video and look at the chat. I'm on the phone. But once I end this video, if somebody can give me a lawyer who is Black or melanated, who defends Karmelo self-defense argument and believe he should have been acquitted, please put that in the chat once this video ends, and I will play that video next. Okay.
It turned out that was one of the jury instructions that was ultimately requested. So one of the things that happens after the evidence is presented in a trial, the parties, so the defense and the prosecution, are going to sit in either the judge's chambers or an open court and go back and forth regarding the jury instructions. So after closing arguments, the judge then reads the jury instructions to the jury, right? So they got all of the evidence during the trial, and now they're going to get the jury instructions, which is the law that they're going to apply to the facts and ultimately make a decision as to whether the prosecution met their burden of proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So obviously, Karmelo Anthony was being charged with murder, but as the evidence played out, it appeared that manslaughter could arguably be applicable as well. And so it's instructive or useful to get into the differences between murder versus manslaughter. So with murder, you are intentionally killing someone else, right? So you're taking an act with intent to take someone else's life. So, put a gun to someone's head, you pull the trigger. There's no argument whatsoever that you were intentionally killing that person. In a manslaughter situation, you are acting with conscious disregard for the risk involved. So it's reckless behavior. So that's the main thing. You either acting intentional, right? You are intentionally killing somebody, or you're doing something so reckless that you are consciously disregarding the person's life. And so then whatever reckless action you took that result in the loss of life, that would be manslaughter versus the intentional killing and murder. And so that may have been what the defense was going for at that point. It's interesting because a lot of times when it comes to a quote unquote victory, people will generally get caught up in conviction versus no conviction. But sometimes the facts are the case that a conviction is inevitable, right? So, the defense is not, if they're being honest with their client, you're not going into a conversation thinking or giving them any impression that they're going to get off completely in the case. You're going to be convicted of something, but the win is to be made in if we can avoid you being convicted of this, where your exposure is potentially life or a number of years in prison, and we can get you, where you're only convicted of something that could be just probation, or, where you can arguably get credit for time served or something like that. Or even it could be where, you might be facing 10 years and we can get you 5 years, right? Like if I've shaved 5 years off of your sentence, then that is a victory, even though you suffered a conviction, right? So depending on, how the conversations went between Karmelo Anthony and his lawyer and, obviously his parents, he's a young man, so the parents were presumably involved in these discussions, they may have said, hey, self-defense, even though we're going to put it on as a self-defense case, we just don't have enough. There's no way we're going to be able to convince a jury that Karmelo was acting in self-defense and that his pulling out a knife and stabbing Austin Metcalf was justified. So they might have been going for, let's say, the next best thing, which would be to avoid a murder conviction and get a manslaughter conviction instead. I don't know if that was a discussion, but it's possible that it was. And so that certainly would have been a victory of sorts if they managed to avoid a murder conviction and, get manslaughter instead. But that, obviously didn't happen. And so there was the self-defense theory that, pretty much was the theme throughout the defense's case, from what I understand. And, there were a lot of people in the comment section in my previous videos saying that, well, Austin had no business putting his hands on Karmelo. Austin could have called a teacher or a coach. And I do agree with that, right? The moment, whether Karmelo should have been under the tent or should not have been, that was up for debate. Was he invited by Eddie? What was his relationship with Eddie? It sounds like, they were, they were in contact with each other or associated with each other by way of, an ex-girlfriend, but they weren't really directly friends. But apparently they were, they knew each other enough to where, they would acknowledge each other, and he, Karmelo was talking to Eddie under the tent for a moment, but it appears that at a certain point he was no longer welcome under the tent, and he's asked to leave, and he's not leaving. He's being non-responsive, and the confrontation starts out relatively calm, but then escalates to aggression. And when it got to that point, it should have been whether on Austin, because he was the captain of the team and kind of a leader under the tent, whether it should have been him or another student to go and get a coach to say, hey, this kid from another school won't leave. We need help getting him out. That would have obviously been a much better look than Austin putting his hands on Karmelo. Austin was wrong to put his hands on Karmelo, whether the touch on the shoulder, whether the push, he had no business putting his hands on Karmelo. However, the problem was that Karmelo responded with deadly force in a situation where there was no objective evidence that would indicate that there was imminent danger of serious bodily injury or death. And so therefore his use of deadly force was simply unjustified. And that really would be a very easy decision for the jury to ultimately decide. So then that leads to whether Karmelo could have helped his case any by taking the stand. This was another thing that came up in the comment section as to whether he should have taken the stand, what would have happened if he had taken the stand.
And before he give his opinion, I think he's a lawyer. Before he give his unsolicited legal advice, I'm going to say it again. I think that was the best thing for Karmelo to do is don't take the stand. Let's see what he says.
Could he have helped his case if he took the stand? And I think the answer is no. I think the defense, just reading between the lines on the situation, if Karmelo Anthony, if his version of the events were such that he could have potentially moved the needle on persuading the judges or persuading the jurors that his life was in danger or that he reasonably believed his life was in danger, I absolutely believe that the defense would have put him on. And, you actually have two different camps when it comes to the issue of whether you.
I told you. Yeah, I need to get my law degree immediately. I'm trying to tell you, I got to do that. I got no law experience at all, but some of this stuff just can't come natural.
Put your client on the stand. I'd say probably most people say never put your client on the stand unless you have to. I am of the camp and the belief of always put your client on unless you cannot. And
told you. And what did I tell you? I said, I'm taking my stand. I said, I'm doing a self-defense argument and I know I'm innocent. I know that I was in fear of my life, and I know that he provided that opportunity for me to be fearful of my life. I'm taking a stand. I made that clear on TikTok and YouTube. I said, I'm taking a stand. And people try to argue, lawyers say, stop. Lawyers tell you don't take the stand for reasons. You dig? Like, they don't believe you're convincing, or they don't believe your case favors you. They think it unfavors you, but you taking a stand gonna unfavor yourself. You dig? But I never watched this video. I tell you, man, like I said, when you believe, when you know you ain't do something, and you know you're being railroaded, and you have an opportunity to speak to the jurors, you're gonna say no. When you know 100% fact you're innocent, and you're being railroaded, man, you're gonna be out there talking. You're gonna be out there talking.
I would just say,
you ain't gonna do it, Marcus Garvey. You ain't gonna go that far and represent yourself and plebiscite babble. You ain't gonna do it, Marcus Garvey, and get up there and plebiscite babble like you, the lawyer. Nah, but you're gonna take the stand. But I say, defend yourself. I'm not saying like Marcus Garvey. Get up there with the feds and do some plebiscite babble and get cooked by J. Edgar Hoover. Nah, I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about let yourself be cross-examined.
Me personally, I think that when you take the stance of never put your client on unless you have to me that just seems like a fearful approach to trial work. And I really, when I have my defenses and I work them up, I really believe in my defenses. I really go all in on my defenses. I try and do my best to prepare our defenses such that, we're accounting for all the difficult things that are going to come up on cross-examination. We're prepared for them. We attack issues head on. If there's any issues that might call into question my client's credibility. We'll attack those head on. Like if they lied to law enforcement, I might even lead with that, right? So, right after we get into, what's your name and maybe what you do for a living. Hey, did you sit down with law enforcement? Yes. Were you completely honest with law enforcement when you talked to them? No, I was not. All right. Well, I want to talk to you about, what you lied about. What did you lie about? And then boom, we get it out there. And now we've taken the sting out of it, because if you just ignore it, you can best believe that the prosecution is really going to hammer on it, and it looks way worse than you taking on that issue head on. So I definitely and I've gone to trial on a murder case. My client facing life in prison. I put him on the stand. We deployed that strategy, and now he it's still work hours. He's probably at work, and he's
You got to quit it. I told you, man. When you ain't do it, and they trying to screw you over, shit. You a stand-up woman, stand-up guy. You taking that stand. You taking it when you believe you're innocent. And your life on the line, we ain't talking about 3 years sentence, probation, or you getting sued for some money. We're talking about your life. You basically is done. You taking that stand. I'm sorry. If you think you're innocent of the charge.
loving being at home with his family and his new wife. I actually went to his wedding. So, I don't just talk this, I live this. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I like this guy right here. I like this guy. FB, I don't know, but he's melanated. Yo, my phone is getting cooked in his sun. Oh my God. My phone is getting cooked in the sun. All right, family, 1 second. Okay, so what is it saying? I don't want to do that. Well, I don't want to do that. Do I have to? Yo, it is cooking out here. I want to order some. I'm trying to order some pizza. But I want to make sure I don't get disconnected. All right. I want to make sure I don't get disconnected. All right, hold on. Yeah, it's ridiculous hot, man. It's damn, man. This is annoying hot. All right. All right. Let me finish the video. I'll order pizza after the video. I don't want to do it like that. Stop the video midway. It's getting good. And then I gotta order some pizza. Um yeah, but I appreciate all the love, the gifts, super chat, cash apps. I appreciate it. Um I'm gonna get back to next week. Next week I'm gonna step it up. I heard it's a new AI. Well, not new. It's just one I ain't heard of. Right? It's not new. There's a bunch of AIs, but I work with 4. I don't really like Grok, and the Venice one is suspect. So the other one I heard, I feel like I'm gonna subscribe to that one. I'm gonna subscribe to that AI. Pay the $20 monthly thing. Yeah. So $20 that. I got ChatGPT. I got Gemini. That's about 60 right there. I got Zoom, which is another 15, and I got premium. I got premium YouTube. So when I play videos, You don't get a commercial. Notice the premium, okay, word on this video. And it's only on Unbiased Brown. If I try to share a video from FBA News and Updates, it won't be. Yeah, so to stream, you know, it costs, it ain't free. It costs some money. And I ain't even mentioned, I got Photoshop for my thumbnails. That's another 25. You dig? That's 125 monthly right there. Okay, I want y'all to see it. Right there, premium. Okay, that says premium. All right. So yeah, y'all doing it. It's going back to the channel. I barely get a chance to buy a cup of coffee.
By putting Karmelo on the stand, I just don't think it would have been very useful for the defense. I think he would have been absolutely eviscerated on the stand. The prosecution would have gone into him having a knife.
Was that right? I said that yesterday, the day before, TikTok and YouTube. I said they would have cooked him. And I gave you what I would have said. Right? Because like how you think I win debates? I win debates because I got to predict what they're going to ask me, or if I ask a question, I got to predict their answer, their most likely answer, so I can have a rebuttal for that. That's why I win all the time. I got to predict what you're going to do. I'm a chess teacher, right? And chess is all about predicting what your opponent going to do when you make your move. So I apply that chess logic to real life when I'm debating. Okay, if I say this, what is he likely to say? Or if I ask this, what's likely his answer? So with the Karmelo thing, I'm like, hey man, I think he get cooked because had he hopped on the stand, I think they would have even made his supporters. I feel like had he hopped on the stand, I think they would have made his supporters back away. They'd have been like, okay, that knife. Do you always carry a knife? And again, they're going to say it like this. They're going to say, so do you always commit a crime with the knife? He's going to be confused. Like, you heard me. Do you always commit a crime when you carry that knife? He's going to be confused. They're going to say, you were on school grounds. That's illegal. You're breaking the law. So do you always carry that knife on school grounds and break the law? And then once he say no, okay, so why you bring it this day? You feel me? Yeah. So yeah. And if he says yes, so you're a criminal. So you always endanger the lives of the public bringing this knife on school. I mean, it would have just been bad. And because I'm trying to think, if I was an attorney, I'm the state, what would I say? You know, and that's how you argue for them. So if I'm a lawyer, I gotta think about their best argument and how we're going to plan to rebut that. So if I'm going to put Karmelo on the stand, I got to think of the toughest questions they're going to ask, and what's our plan to rebut that stuff.
It being in that open position versus, the blade being tucked in, the prosecution really would have harped on just the lack of aggression, right? There not being anything that would have justified the use of deadly force, just being pushed, even if being pushed pretty harshly, is not going to give you license to then, pull out a knife and stab somebody. So, it seems very clear why the defense did not have him take the stand. And, I don't know that I would have had him take the stand either in that situation. A lot was said about the defense attorneys and lack of aggression. There's a few things. It could be personality, right? We all have our different styles, and it's really important that you be who you are. I guess that's just in life, right? Just be who you are. Don't try and be anybody else. If you're trying to be somebody else, you're robbing the world of the gift that is you. But when it comes to trial work, it's almost like, music. I'm a huge hip hop head. Everybody knows that. in the 90s, there were so many different styles, right? Whether you had, Biggie, or you had the Wu-Tang Clan, which had, 9 members, all of whom had 9 different styles. You had the Fugees, and you had, Brand Nubian, you had a Tribe Called Quest, you had Outkast, and they all had different styles. And that was such a beautiful thing. Whereas now so much music sounds, the same, right? It seems so cookie cutter. And I don't want to get too deep into that rabbit hole, but my point is, everybody's got to play into their own style, musically, artistically, and as a trial lawyer. And if it's just not in your personality to be aggressive, then if you try and come off as aggressive, or you try and do things that somebody with a more aggressive personality as a trial lawyer does, then it's going to come off as inauthentic, and a jury just is not going to believe you. The jury has to believe you. They have to find you credible. They have to find you authentic. And so it could have been that, right? It just may not have been the defense attorney's style to be aggressive. But one other thing that you have to take into consideration is the deference that needs to be given in a case like this. At the end of the day, a 17-year-old boy lost his life in a very brutal manner. And, the testimony, when it comes out about the cause of death and the manner of death, that is so gut-wrenchingly heartbreaking. It's never, it's never easy to sit through, even as defense counsel. I'm a defense attorney. I've been doing this for 17 years, and it can still be difficult to, listen to the testimony on how a person died, right? I believe in live and let live, and peace and harmony and love and all that. I'm on a very positive vibe in life. And, I don't like to hear about people dying. Obviously, I'm going to zealously advocate for my client and give them their, best defense. But, it's just not something that you love hearing. And so to be a defense attorney and try and bulldoze your way through a trial and a defense, that's a surefire way to have the jury turn on you. But the other part of it is, in order for you to be aggressive, you have to have something to argue about, to be aggressive over, right? And so they just didn't really seem to have much of a defense there, so there really wasn't much to be aggressive about. And on that note, at least in terms of my style, I am very respectful of the other side in a trial. I'm respectful of the prosecutors, definitely show respect to the judge or the court staff and everything, but also to the, opposing witnesses, right? I am not disrespectful to witnesses. In fact, I represented a client on a child molestation case, and, that was a very difficult case, and the very emotional testimony. And interestingly enough, years after I did that case, I ran into one of the jurors in the locker room, and I recognized him, and he recognized me, and we talked, and he just commented on, how respectful and nice I was to the victims in that case. And, I obviously have a job to do, and I was zealously advocating for my client, but that doesn't mean, zealously advocating for your client, passionately advocating for your client doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful or mean to witnesses in order to get your points across, or, to establish what you need to establish on cross-examination. And so yeah, there are a number of reasons why the defense attorneys may not have been as, say, aggressive as people may have wanted them to be. But, there's some insight on that. One of the other issues that came up was why wasn't some sort of deal reached, right? So we all know that plea bargains exist, right? And so just generally speaking, really a small percentage of cases make it to trial. I know all day, every day, you turn on the news, you're going to see a different trial on the Law and Crime Network or on your local news. There's always criminal cases going on. but relatively small, a small percentage of cases actually go to trial. So 90+% of cases do not go to trial. A small percentage of cases, say.
Yeah, now you heard that. You heard that, right? Yeah, me too. You heard that. That stat was important. Okay, got it. So I got it. Yeah. Oh, it's good. It's good. You can use it. Yeah, you can use it. It's 32. 32. 3 and 2, 32. Yeah, so you already said 90% of cases end in plea. So this is what Michelle Alexander's book was talking about, the new Jim Crow and the age of colorblindness. She was saying that like during the war on drugs, the DEA would overcharge black people because they knew 90% of them will take a plea. They were overcharged, innocently charged, but they knew 90% of them would take a plea. You get that? So if we overcharge and charge innocent people, we overcharge guilty people and we charge innocent people, 100 altogether. 90 of them is going to cop and take the felony, right? 10 of them will take it to trial and beat it. So they like, we'll do this all day. That's a win. We got 90 of them in jail with a felony and 10 made it out. All right, let's keep doing it. Like who wouldn't invest $10 to get $90 back over every week? That's easy money. So that system caused mass incarceration, and I believe that was done in the 90s so that illegals can get a job, because it was a felon with a felony, you're done. Now they can legally discriminate against you. That's what Michelle Alexander was disseminating through her book and her lectures. Right. So with a felony, you don't got to serve no jail time. Just cop a plea and a lot of times people are just copping pleas to felonies, no jail time. So you're overcharged, you're innocent in your charge, and all they want from you is just probation for 2-3 years, a small fine. You like, hell yeah, I ain't about to risk fighting this charge with no money with a public defender. Get sentenced to 7 years as opposed to no time. All they're gonna give me is a felony. Now they're not understanding with that felony, dude. You can't live nowhere, you can't work nowhere, you can't get a loan. They don't understand that. Like you're back in Jim Crow. They didn't understand that. All they knew was, I'm looking at hard time versus no time. Just a simple word, FEOLNY. But they don't know that FELONY is the modern way to say SLAVERY. They didn't know that. Hindsight, we all know now. But yeah, that's a crazy stat. Out of 100%, 90% people cop a plea, 10% actually take the trial. So they use those numbers against us. This is why we need. Now think about mass incarceration. Think about Flint, Michigan. Had there been an anti-Black American crime bill, anti-soul fro crime bill at that time, Michigan would have been sued. You dig? The feds, DA would have been sued. But nobody wants to argue. Nobody even want to talk about that. They just want to talk about individual lone wolves who get railroaded. Karmelo, Cyrus, Floyd. They want to talk about individuals that don't, whether Karmelo get charged or whether he get convicted or acquitted. It's still no anti-Black crime. So that means that this could happen to somebody else over and over and over for the next 100 years. The real win is not him being acquitted. The real win is getting. So if Karmelo Anthony was the sacrificial pawn to bring about an anti-Black crime bill, then he did great. He did great. Rosa Parks was a sacrificial pawn, and other Blacks for things that got done. So it's always an unfortunate thing to happen to be the sacrifice. I go back to Megan's Law. Megan was a sacrifice, puts that law through. You know, unfortunately, somebody's going to be the martyr. Unfortunately. So we gotta to do Karmelo justice. Let's say if it's appeal, because he's appealing it, and I think he should win the appeal. I think he should have 10 years max and maybe probation, 10 years probation. That's what I think should happen. And if somehow, if I'm a betting man, I think that's gonna happen. I think it'll be reduced to 10 years, and I think he won't serve another day. I think it'll all be probation. Okay, but the way to martyr him, even though he's living, but the way to martyr him is get an anti Karmelo crime bill. But I'm joking, but the anti-black American crime bill, anti-soul lineage crime bill. You dig?
Maybe 1 to 3% get dismissed, maybe another 3 or 4% go to trial, and then the rest are resolved by way of a plea deal. And it has to be that way because if every case went to trial, or even many more went to trial, then the whole system would grind to a halt. We just would not have enough courtrooms, enough court staff, enough resources for all the.
That's a strategy. Everybody take it to trial. That's a strategy. Hold on, family. Let me look at something real fast. Matter of fact, should I? Yeah, let me. Hey, man, do anybody got that? Let me know now if y'all got a defense attorney who's siding with. I'm talking about after the conviction. Let me look in the chat. Let me look in the chat. Hold on. Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So let me see if y'all got a defense attorney in the chat. I don't want no active. I want a lawyer. If y'all got a lawyer in the chat who you got a name in the chat who defends, who believes Karmelo is should been acquitted, put the name. Yeah. Them Democrats are the worst, man. Yeah. Ricardo Flat, a Karmelo anti-crime bill. There you go. I look for solutions, man. Like, how can we make this a win? 10 years. Well, if the word commuter sentence, well, he got convicted for 35 years. So he got convicted 35 years for murder. So reduce it, make it a pill, and make it 10 years for murder. I'm looking for, they show no mentions of Metcalfs who have a list of dysfunction and now that part, I got no rebuttal for that. How the courts normally black out white people past when they like dysfunction, violent, like the dad, the dude, the Rick Child guy, like how none of his background was in the court, how they able to like dismiss that and don't use it. Yeah, that part I got no rebuttal for that. Like that part, I'm gonna hold that L. I'm like, yeah, man. I don't know how they able to put our past in there in the courtroom. They got nothing to do with the case. Our past is all in the courtroom. But these white people, their criminal background, their violence, their dysfunction is never on display, man. Yeah. So does anybody have a lawyer? I believe that Eddie do set him up because he want to come up with a girlfriend. Yeah. Now Eddie did play him. Like, yeah, Eddie gonna have some bad luck on him, man. Like my man said, I don't know that guy. And they got pictures of them double dating, basically. Batman and Robin for Halloween. Yeah, that part crazy. Yeah, and I don't believe Karmelo's representation was any good. Like I would go with that conspiracy all day long. I don't believe President Mike said he think they'll throw the case out during the appeal. Yeah, I really believe that that he didn't get a fair trial. Like his man set him up, act like he ain't know him. Turned out he knew him. They were best friends. You dig? Yeah. So let that go. Right back. Stay right here. Yeah. So yeah, I believe the lawyer ain't really do a good job representing him, fighting. I mean, damn, like the dude ain't cross-examine. I mean, all those witnesses, like he did a horrible job of debunking their stories, punching holes in their stories. Like, yeah, like all the feedback we got, we don't hear no good news about his defense team like cooking nobody. Like witnesses are so easy to cook and discredit. You feel me? And he struggled. Like, there's no stories of the defense like, oh yeah, man, he handled those witnesses. Let me finish it.
Rooms, enough court staff, enough resources for all these cases to go to trial. And quite frankly, most cases have no business going to trial, right? If a person is clearly guilty, then, it makes more sense to negotiate a deal than to put on a case for the inevitable result of your client being convicted. And so, generally speaking, the prosecutor in any case is going to make an offer to the defense, which generally speaking is going to be more favorable than if you were to go through trial, get convicted, and then get sentenced after trial, right? So as an incentive, that's what encourages people to take deals, because they know, hey, if I just admit guilt, I know I did something, right? It may not be to the extent of what I'm charged with, but I did something wrong. If I take this deal, I'm going to get less time or potentially no time, versus if I go to trial and I get found guilty, I could go to prison or I could get jail or what have you, right? But there are some cases where deals simply are not made, right? And murder cases is one of those. In murder cases, a lot of times, the DA is not going to make any offer at all. It is on the defense, if they so choose, to make an offer to the district attorney, and then they can either reject that offer or make a counter offer or accept the offer. And so I don't know, we'll never know whether the defense actually made any sort of offer to the district attorney to settle the case. Probably not. Just because, you have a young man who was only 17 at the time of the incident. He's got his whole life ahead of him. The prosecution clearly believed that this was a murder, and the jury now has supported that with their verdict. So in order for them to entertain any sort of deal, it would have had to have been an offer that would be in the neighborhood of probably, at least, I would say at a minimum, 20 years, probably closer to 25 or 30 years. And so to, sit down with your client and their family and say, hey, we're going to sign you up for a 25, 30-year deal, at 18, 19 years old, that just is not realistic. And so, but any offer less than that just would not be accepted by the district attorney. And that kind of, to help you understand negotiations a bit more, the way that you assess and analyze whether a deal or an offer makes sense is by basically projecting out what the case is going to look like in front of a jury, right? As you can kind of figure how the evidence is going to come off, the strength of the evidence, the strength of the witnesses and the like. The stronger the prosecution believes its case to be, the less flexible they're going to be in negotiations. Whereas if they have witness issues, if there might be evidentiary issues, or if it's just a thin case, it's not that strong of a case, the prosecution might be more agreeable or more amenable to flexible negotiations. But in this case, where the prosecution not only believes their case is rock solid, and rightfully so, and they're also accountable to the victims' families, right? They at least in California, the prosecution, they have to run any proposed offer by the alleged victim's family or the alleged victim, if they're still alive, and get their take on it. They'll also ask, hey, what do you think is an appropriate punishment? And while the decision is ultimately the district attorney's to make, they definitely take into consideration the victim's stance on the matter. But that just explains why a deal wasn't reached and why the case ultimately had to go to trial. And one thing to bear in mind is sometimes at the end of the day, the trial process, it's probably one of the fairest, if not the fairest in the world. It has its shortcomings for certain, but it is a pretty fair process. We really do everything that we can to get it right. And, when the government says that you did something, right, the fascinatingly wonderful thing about being in the United States is that we have a right to a trial in front of a jury, right? Before we had jury trials, the government could just say, hey, you did this. And if they said you did it, then you did it. And that's that. Now we have, you get a jury of your peers to listen to the evidence. They have, there's a whole selection process to make sure that they can be fair and impartial. And they listen to the evidence, they get the law, and they ultimately make a decision whether the government proved their case beyond a reasonable doubt. And that is the function of the jury trial. And so sometimes when you have a set of facts where, there just is not going to be an agreement reached. So those are the cases that go to trial, right? Cases go to trial when the defense and the prosecution simply cannot come to an agreement as to how the case should be resolved. And so that means that the case ends up going before the jury in order to determine, hey, did the prosecution, have they proved beyond a reasonable doubt that the person did what they're being charged with? And sometimes there's a defense to be presented, and sometimes there's not really a defense because the person did what they're alleged to have done. So the defense is kind of, raising certain issues that might lead to reasonable doubt and may not lead to reasonable doubt. And clearly in this situation, there wasn't anything there that would, cause any sort of reasonable doubt as to whether Karmelo actually murdered Austin Metcalf. And so that's why they reached the decision that they reached. So I think that's a good place to leave off. But, let me know your thoughts. Did the verdict turn out the way you?
All right. Okay. Okay, buddy. My God. Come on, I didn't do that. I'm looking for more. Look at this. Not impressed.
Thumbs up when you're ready, y'all.
Mm. This. I'm trying to minimize it. Well, why it's not listening to me? It's crazy. You know what? Let me just close. Stop the share. Look, you see me pushing the minimize button. Okay, is that hard? All right, let's look at some other stuff. Okay, here we go. Here's one now the title. Okay, the title seemed like it's pro Karmelo, so I want to play a pro Karmelo video. I don't want to keep playing stuff that supports. I'm gonna go to. Let's go here.
Peace, everybody. Welcome back to All Viral Access Media, man. We're going to get right to it, man. Listen, make sure y'all like, share, subscribe, hit that like button. But the most important button you need to press is the share button. It ain't going to kill you. It's for free. Now, we got these two beautiful sisters, right? And one of them is a former prosecutor who literally exposes how fraudulent, how crooked, how illegal, and how racist and biased this whole court proceeding transpired. And she goes by her experience as being a prosecutor herself. And we just have to understand the type of people that we are dealing with. I'm not going to talk your head off. I'm going to let the sister in the hot pink speak first. She's going to drop some shit, and we're going to have the beautiful sister, both of these beautiful sisters, but the sister after her, which is the former prosecutor, speak. And this is powerful. I ain't gonna talk no more. Let's go.
Wait. I don't want the non-lawyer. Hold on. What do you say?
I'm not gonna talk your head off. I'm gonna let the sister in the hot pink speak first. She's gonna drop some shit, and we're gonna have the beautiful sister, both of these beautiful sisters, but the sister after her, which is the former prosecutor.
Okay, I want the former prosecutor. I don't want no. Okay, it's okay.
Wait, for a trial that set Karmelo media from coming. He only had these white.
100%.
There was no black jurors. Okay. All of these witnesses, these teenage witnesses that came in here and testified, I sat and I watched them. They lied. Their stories. Let me say something to you. Ma'am, can we get your name? Let me say something. As a former prosecutor,
Let her talk.
this was a legal lynching that happened in here today.
Exactly what happened. We can't hear you.
I said, as a former prosecutor, this was a legal lynching that happened in this slaughterhouse. This is a slaughterhouse. This is not a courthouse.
We had no chance.
This courthouse is designed when you would come here and you look like us to slaughter you.
Absolutely.
That judge intentionally sealed us from being able to have a legal right to see what the fuck was going on in this case for a motherfucking reason. That's why. Because he.
Can you stop cursing, guys? Come on, man. Damn. Please. You get the message across without all that. You can get everybody flagged. Come on. On TikTok, I'll be timed out already.
You know, when we have access, we don't play about our people. So how do he silence us? He closed the fucking case so we can't see what the fuck is going on.
Oh my God, come on. You're an ex-lawyer.
Make no motherfucking mistake.
My, really?
When they pick their
hey, family, if she keep doing that, I can't play it. Like, that's why I don't like to curse, because you make the videos unplayable, unreplayable. Sis, you gotta stop. You gotta articulate. Come on, you're an ex-lawyer. Do it without the cursing, please. Please.
like that, that's designed because they know that their people are not smart as us.
That's right.
We can read through the bullshit.
Okay, all right.
They follow their bullshit.
All right, I can't. I wanted to, but the cursing I can't. I'm already shadow man. You dig? I can't tell. I'm already shadow man. All right. Can't do that. Come on, like we gotta do ourselves a favor and let our message get out. We can't help hurt our message. So somebody give you a platform, microphone, go in without the cursing. Every word.
Oh man.
Every word. Mother. Come on, man. Like we deserve better. Like why do people think we deserve that? Well, why when it comes to us the Cardi B's and whatever. They want to dress like harlots. Say the worst when it's for us, but they get in front of white people. Everybody in their best behavior. But yo, we deserve that too, man. Like, don't get in front of us, start cussing like crazy. We deserve some the good language too, man.
And let me see. What's that? Justice? How are you using my platform to bring justice for Cyrus? Poetic Lady, hop on, man. Poetic Lady, hop on. Okay, very interesting question. Poetic Lady, hop on, please. Poetic Lady, hop on. If you ask a question like that, you would need to hop on and say that with your chest. Hop on. Yeah, don't say something and then bounce. Okay, that's an interesting question. Okay, how come you didn't hop on? Don't say something like, don't ask me that. Because I've been talking about him. I've been talking about him last week. All right. I talked about that case last week. There's so much stuff going on. Yeah, don't ask me about some shit that I done already covered. You're late, ma'am. Yeah, that's why you didn't want to get on. Don't say that. Don't do that. I'm already 10 steps ahead of the game, beloved. She got the hell on. Don't ask me no shit like that. And I've discussed that last week, and you late. A lot of this stuff, man, I'm already on it. I've been on it. In fact, I talked about that. I got tweets about that from 2023 when it first happened. You're late. I talked about it when it first went down. There's a tweet. Go look at my tweets. You're late. Yeah. I've been on this. That's why my spaces start catching on fire. Everybody runs over here. When shit goes down, everybody runs over here. Because I've already had the scoop. I've already been warning people of what's been happening. Yeah, don't ever question me, ma'am, about nothing. But what I'm doing with my platform, ma'am, I'm always ahead of the curve. Not only that, she has a septum ring. Oh, you know what my brother Torrin Rain says about them septum rings. She's a Democrat shield. Yeah, I know a Democrat shield ain't saying nothing. As quiet as y'all been for the last week behind the Karmelo case, y'all been real quiet. Y'all trying to say something now because y'all know it looks bad on y'all asses. All the Democrat shills, y'all trying to say something now because the community is really rallying around this case. Y'all been very quiet because your damn minority coalition was up in that courtroom with the white supremacists throwing our brother under the bus. I know y'all better not say nothing. I know a septum ring Democrat shield better not poke your head up in this bitch and say nothing. Oh no, that's what I'm saying. I know you better not say nothing up in here. You have them damn minority coalitions up in there with the white supremacists throwing our good brother under the bus. And these Democrat shields are just now kind of trying to say something. They're tiptoeing around it. Man, yeah, the streets have been rallying around our brother. Yeah, the Democrats can't say nothing because this is one of the reasons we need a crime bill. Can we get deep? I think it's time for us to get deep right now. I think it's
Hey, yo, Tariq been pushing the crime bill the longest. I ain't gonna lie, but ever since he brought it to my attention, I've been going hard too. And I don't know a lot of people that's been going hard with the crime bill and like really getting to the laws and legalities of it. Like people may mention it, but no, we need to learn why are we not getting it? What's the excuses? What's the rebuttal? That's what me and Tariq Nasheed provide.
time for us to get deep. Let's talk about the case, by the way. Now, family, let's talk about it. Did Karmelo get a fair trial? That's the question. Did our good brother Karmelo get a fair trial? Let's be real. He did not. Our young brother did not get a fair trial in any sense of the word, and everybody knows it. That's why the white supremacists are celebrating it. All right, and listen, the Metcalf, and y'all stop circulating that picture of Jeff Metcalf with these people, and people are talking about he's taking a picture with the judge and the DA. Y'all stop that shit, because that's not the judge and the DA. Stop circulating that picture. All right? Y'all got to have facts right and exact when y'all start putting shit out there. Don't just throw stuff on the wall. That picture that's circulating around, that is not Jeff Metcalf and the DA and the judge. It's a totally different judge, totally different DA. All right? Y'all don't have to do that. Y'all please fact check your stuff, because there's real shit on this guy that you can put out there. Like, hell, some of the little low-key racist shit he's saying. He was in a space earlier with one of these suspected white supremacist trolls that's clicked in with the alt-right that was all out there antagonizing black people. And Jeff Metcalf made a comment about Karmelo, talking about he's a watermelon felon, saying little white supremacist racist shit. There's a lot of stuff we can bring up about the guy. Don't bring up nothing false. All right? Come on now. We got a lot to bring up about these people. But yeah, our brother Karmelo did not get a fair trial. He didn't get a fair trial in any sense of the word. Number one, when we saw the purging of black jurors right there, when they were systematically using their strikes to eliminate the black jurors, no black peers to judge this brother. That wasn't a jury of peers. That was a jury of enemies. Of course, they're going to throw the book at him. You systematically curated a racially skewed environment before the opening statements began. He was already cooked. We saw it. And that janky ass Timu lawyer, oh, that's another piece of work. He didn't challenge that. We're going to get on that in a minute. But listen, that entire confrontation, it escalated because Karmelo, he sought shelter from the rain at a public high school track meet. The prosecution built a whole narrative that he was the aggressor simply for existing in a space where white T students felt entitled to control the environment and then physically put their hands on him. All right? They were all on the take in this thing. Even the judge. The judge rejected the defense's request to give the jury options for convicting on a much, much lesser charge like criminal negligent homicide. But they were going to throw the book at him anyway, I think. But just, it was rotten from the core from the very beginning. You understand? And that damn lawyer, if they do an appeal, which I think they're working on an appeal, they got to get another lawyer. I think that lawyer was on the take. That lawyer was on team white T supremacy. That lawyer, you can't be that damn weak. I'm like, this lawyer didn't cross-examine anybody. All those witnesses got up and just said anything. That lawyer wasn't objecting to none of that shit they were saying. He didn't give them no thorough cross, nothing. Dude, I really think that lawyer was rigging it for Karmelo. He was on team white T supremacy. Again, they'll take a loss in the courtroom if it's a win for white T supremacy. Let's stop playing. But listen. Because that judge, I keep saying judge, because the lawyer was so incompetent, man, I really hope they get an appeal. Hope they win an appeal. They get another trial. They have to appeal the Bastin challenge. They got to really attack the judge ruling that allowed the prosecution to strike all the female and the black jurors. And the excuse they used was weak as hell. They excused them because they were teachers. That's BS. So that needs to be exposed on appeal as a pretextual lie used to mask blatant racial discrimination during jury selection. You understand? Also, with that janky lawyer they had, there's a statute, I think it's called ineffective assistance of counsel. Like during the sentencing phase, the defense, they dropped the ball. They just really dropped the ball. So they can make an argument that their counsel was just completely ineffective. They failed to adequately humanize Karmelo by calling coaches for him, teammates for him, his own teammates. They never called his own teammates from what I understand. They were calling all the people from the opposing team. So yeah, they're going to be They're going to cape for their own teammate who's against him. They didn't call on any community members to testify on Karmelo's behalf. They didn't call no.
Yeah, no, that in my opinion, that wouldn't be good strategy. No, what you want to do is cook the people, the witnesses for. You want to cook the people for Eric. You want to punch holes in their stories. You don't want to invite them to punch holes in your story. See, when you got witnesses or character witnesses, then they got to answer questions for Karmelo that they can't answer. So no, because it becomes fair game. You can't just have somebody say some good things about you, and the other side can't discredit them. Yeah, you don't want to do that because they're going to ask questions about Karmelo, and when they don't answer, it's going to come across they don't really know him. You know what I mean? So that's what they're going to do. Like if they can't answer for him, which they can't, how can you answer somebody else? They're going to pretend like, okay, well then how well do you know this guy? You know, but that can only come back and bite you. You want to poke holes in the witnesses' stories and discredit them. You don't want to give the prosecution an alley here. And I don't think that happens. I'm not sure, but I don't believe the defense normally get people on the stand for the character witness thing. I'm not sure that's the thing people do because you leave it for the state to cook them and discredit them.
Experts, that lawyer didn't even try. So they should file for ineffective assistance of counsel. Yeah? But I want y'all to understand something. This Karmelo case, ladies and gentlemen, this proves why we need a hate crime bill. This proves why we need a hate crime bill. This is very, very important. You understand? Because understand why the white tea supremacists are celebrating. They're not just celebrating because one of a black person who defended themselves from white supremacist violence is getting punished. They're celebrating because they just said that we legally cannot defend ourselves from white supremacist aggression with this case. You understand? This is about power. They're cheering because this verdict is a dog whistle. The system is functioning like it was designed to protect white lives at all costs and punish black existence. So Karmelo's imprisonment, that's a trophy. That's public validation of the racist worldview that we belong in cages. And this was a formal criminalization of black survival, ladies and gentlemen. See, this verdict re-solidifies, hold on, God damn it. Hold on, hold on. These Nigerians, dude. Hey man, hey, stop. Damn. Sorry, guys. Come on, y'all chill out. I'm talking to the family. Y'all foreigners, chill out. Don't start that. Just pressing the buttons over and over to try to get up. No, if I say you can't get up, come on, man. I'm talking to the family. Damn. None of that. Let's play a game in my village. None of that shit. We talking about some serious business right now. My goodness. But like I said, man, they're treating black survival as a crime. See, when we're faced with white tea aggression and physical threats, what they're trying to say is we have to absorb it. We have to just take it. And if we choose to defend ourselves to preserve our own lives or bodily autonomy, we're going to be branded as the aggressor. So the message is loud and clear. Under systematic white supremacy, they're trying to say our right to self-defense does not exist. And we're saying we're going to reject that. We have to loudly reject that. See, the dangerous precedent of unchecked white tea aggression, see, that's a problem. Locking up a black youth for defending himself. See, the justice system, they set a precedent. They're giving a green light to white aggressors, letting them know they can provoke, harass, threaten us with absolute impunity by the law, because Some people are like, damn what the law says. I have a God-given right to protect myself. You're not just going to run up on me. So the system, they'll ignore the white tea aggression that initiated the conflict and punish the black reaction to it, just like Trayvon Martin. You ignore Zimmerman chasing him around with a gun. This poor kid who's don't know what's going on tries to.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. God damn, man. Every day I might get flagged by the Breakfast Club. I did not mean to do that. Damn.
By the law, because some people are like, damn what the law says. I have a God-given right to protect myself. You're not just going to run up on me. So the system, they'll ignore the white tea aggression that initiated the conflict and punish the black reaction to it, just like Trayvon Martin. You ignore Zimmerman chasing him around with a gun. This poor kid who's don't know what's going on tries to fight off an attacker. The attacker gets made into a hero. You know? You're like Daniel Penny. I love bringing up Daniel Penny. See, they can't get around the Daniel Penny precedent that they've set. They can't get around that. They set a precedent. See, the white tea supremacists want to run around us and say, hey, you just can't go stabbing people just because they said something. No. Yes, you can. If somebody's aggressive, you can use lethal force against them. You white tea supremacists proved that with Daniel Penny. I don't know about that. Yeah, you do know about it. They like to act dumb. No. Y'all set a precedent with Daniel Penny. Daniel Penny unalived Jordan Neely, who didn't touch a person on that train up in New York. Up in New York, Daniel Penny snuck up from behind and choked out Jordan Neely, who didn't touch anybody. He's just yelling at himself. Didn't touch anybody. And unalived him, and they said that was justified. And when we bring that up, oh, well, that's a different state. It's a different, oh, yeah, it is a different state. Guess what? And it's a state that has way stricter self-defense laws. In New York, their self-defense laws are not as expansive as Texas, by the way. In New York, you have a duty to retreat. In New York, part of the stand your ground law or the self-defense law in New York, you're supposed to run first. If you're in danger, get the hell out of there. You're required to do that. They have a duty to retreat.
Yeah, but not give. Okay, so this way he's wrong. On the subway, there's no way to retreat to. You're enclosed in that compartment, and you don't have the duty. You don't have the duty to retreat if retreating makes you more vulnerable. So you got a subway going fast. You getting up, turning your back, you can fall down, trip, or he could just attack you. But so that does not apply right there. All right. So we're talking about an opening, like a park, you know what I mean, and outside, just taking a walk. Yeah, you got to do it to retreat then. But when you're in an enclosed like convenience store, no. Bodega, no. Your elevator, it's over. Like you gotta do what you gotta do right then and there. Yeah, so that part, I don't know if he looked into that. Yeah, but that's what make that case unique. They were on a subway in a compartment, whatever they call it, and they were closed in. There was no way to go. And if your retreat make you more vulnerable, you don't have to do that if you keep reading the law.
New York. Texas doesn't have a duty to retreat. You're supposed to stay where you are and neutralize the threat in Texas according to the law. You understand? So yeah, the laws were all against Daniel Penny and they still let him walk for unaliving a person who was a zero threat to him. And all of them paraded Daniel Penny around like a hero. He was up there with the president. They paraded him around. Y'all need to do the same thing with Karmelo. Don't give us all of that talk about what he shouldn't have done. No, you set a precedent. Yeah, it took them a month to charge him. They didn't want to charge him, remember? They didn't even want to charge him. Us activists was out here stomping and making noise just to get the charges on him. You understand? Don't let them tell you what you ain't supposed to do. Y'all were the funny.
Yep. Go find your markers. And a anti-black crime bill would deter all of that. Anti-crime, black crime bill. There's no Zimmerman. There's no Chud the Builder. There's no Rick Chow. There's no Eric Metcalf. They're gonna think twice because they're looking like, damn, this gonna look bad. I mean, I'm bullying a guy who's protected, who got a law in his name. Folks gonna think twice.
The main people talking about what Karmelo should not have done, these were the main people supporting Daniel Penny. All of them were supporting Daniel Penny. So this is a racially based case. It's all about, I'm white T and I say so. You understand? So this thing puts a lot of us in jeopardy to a certain degree from a legal standpoint, because when we are navigating in spaces, whether it's a school, a track meet, a neighborhood. So now this whole thing where we can't make a mistake, we can't react, we can't protect ourselves. So we're told to shrink ourselves and allow and absorb abuse or face decades behind bars. No. This is why we got to get a hate crime bill, ladies and gentlemen. It is imperative that we get a hate crime bill. You understand? It is imperative. This is why we cannot let the Democrats run around us talking about anything except a hate crime bill, ladies and gentlemen. Because what they do now, they're trying to weaponize self-defense against us. See, we're treated as public property, meaning anybody is allowed to aggressively harass and provoke and violate our boundaries with impunity. And when we stand our ground to defend ourselves from that harassment, the system flips the script on us. We're criminalized for our own survival. So the system, they're comfortable with us just being victims. You know, they want to put us on a mural and then have a march and a protest, and then the Democrats can make money. They send the tethers out and send the LGBT out and then start talking about, yes, what happened to this black person who got unalive happens to trans people all the time too. So give us some donations. You understand? So we really, really need a crime bill for this. This is why I've been stomping very hard explaining why we need a crime bill. And whenever we start demanding legal protections and point out these blatant double standards, we're like, hey, we need a crime bill from white T supremacist aggression. Then what do we have? We got people talking about, well, what about black on black crime? Don't you want a crime bill for that too? What about all the crime in Chicago? We start hearing that black crime stuff. Well, hell, let's look at that. Let's look at the black crime stuff, because, yeah, we don't get protection from black criminals either. Hell, black on black crime, that's actually the result of institutional abandonment. Yeah, we don't get protection from criminal elements in the community either. Because
that's a fair point.
Law enforcement deliberately refuses to intervene. There's an under-policing of black victims, but there's an over-policing of black self-defense. When criminals, even black ones, whatever, when they prey on law-abiding citizens, let's be goddamn real. Law enforcement looks the other way. They don't help us. You understand? They let it fester.
That's right. And that's why the Charleston whites be out here like, nah, hell no. Like, no. You keeping it real. Like, yo, some of these guys are predators, man. They prey on us. They are preying on us because they realize the police refuse to protect us. So once these thugs, these degenerates get wind of that, then here they go, preying on us too. They join Team White Supremacy. Yeah, that's what happens. That's why people like Charleston White be calling them out. Those fake thugs.
That serves the broader narrative of black dysfunction. They don't help us from criminals. We don't want to be criminalized. So what happens is crime within the community, it forces vigilance and survival mode for us. When the state abandons its duty to protect us from criminals, we get forced into a corner. So now we have to enforce our own protection. You understand? 911 ain't gonna really show up. They're not gonna solve the problem if you're getting targeted or harassed. They wait till you're unalive before they want to do something. They don't do anything. So you have to become your own first responder. And when you neutralize the criminal element within your community, that becomes another part of black on black crime. You know what I'm saying? A lot of so-called black on black crime, you're protecting yourself.
Right.
So if it's a black person protecting themselves from a criminal element. Yeah, so they're like, hell, we just get two birds with one stone. So we have to be forced to defend ourselves, our family, our property in a lawless environment engineered by the state, ladies and gentlemen. So that's why we need a hate crime bill. We need certain levels of sovereignty so that we can get federal funding to police our own communities, because the state does a horrible job at it. You understand? We need a bill that criminalizes provocation and harassment of foundational Black American citizens. Now, the hate crime bill, that's just the floor. That's not the ceiling, because local and state institutions, they've proven for centuries they won't protect us. So foundational Black Americans, we need to be legally designated as a protected class. We have a very unique foundational lineage in this country, and our legal standing must reflect that. You understand? So we need federal allocation for community-led security and enforcement. See, we got to have dedicated federal dollars to protect our community with our own people. If traditional law enforcement, they refuse to protect us from criminals and white supremacist violence, and they only show up to criminalize us when we protect ourselves, those resources need to be redirected. So we need to start brainstorming and coming up with ways to get federal funding utilized to establish our own community-led, heavily funded protection and security infrastructure. Because people always kind of condemn us. Well, how come y'all don't fix your community? We ain't got the resources. Y'all block our resources. You block our housing. So we really don't have the resources to have people policing communities. And when they do, they have to have the federal green light to do that legally, because if there's a criminal and you have to put him down, you don't want to become a criminal, criminalize yourself. Yeah, the Jewish community, they got their own police, like in New York. The Jewish community got their own police, their own ambulance services. Y'all remember, what was that case that happened in New York? Was it in the 90s, that very famous case where somebody hit a kid, and then didn't a Jewish ambulance show up and pick up the Jewish person who hit him and left the kid there? Wasn't it something like that? Where are my New York people? You know, I got old Negro memory, but if my memory is correct, I think that's what happened, right? Do I have any with Crown Heights? My Crown Heights people in here? Ain't that what happened? Something like that? Like a Jewish ambulance came and left the kid on the ground and then picked up the Jewish person who hit him? It was something like that. And people are like, what y'all got your own ambulance? Hey, what's that about? We need that. Yeah, was that 93? When was that? Okay. Yeah, we need that, ladies and gentlemen. All right? That's what we need. We need that. But look at what they're saying about the case. So the Karmelo case, when they talk about the Karmelo case, like, what rights did Karmelo have? Was he supposed to just sit there and be abused? What rights did he have? Same thing. I would ask the same thing with Trayvon Martin. When Trayvon Martin, they're talking about all these stand your ground rights that Zimmerman had. I would always ask people in the dominant society, what rights did Trayvon had? And you know what they would say? They would always say, well, he should have just went home. He should have just went home. What? That's what the hell he was doing. He was trying to go home, and then he got attacked by a crazed maniac. Same thing with Karmelo. Notice nobody's ever saying what Metcalf did was wrong. You notice that? Not one person in the dominant society said what Metcalf did was wrong, which it was. Metcalf, you shouldn't have put your hands on him. Metcalf shouldn't have came over under that tent putting his hands on nobody. Nobody says that. Nobody has said that. Metcalf caused his own demise. All of that was orchestrated by Metcalf. Metcalf should not have put his hand. That was illegal. They ignore that. Everything is about what Karmelo should have just left. Why didn't he leave? He was told 15 times to just leave. Why that dumbass lawyer didn't, man, that's why for a long, I was like, man, do I need to go get a damn law degree? I would have ate them bastards up with that. I would have went in there and crushed all of that. Like, excuse me, what authority do you have to make somebody leave? Why did you invite him in the tent in the first place? I would have crossed all that shit up. Eddie, you know him. You knew him, right? Well, I kind of sort of. Well, didn't y'all hang out before? I mean, what you mean you kind of sort of knew him? What are you saying? I would have. God damn, man, you could have crossed all his bullshit up. I'm thinking, boy, that lawyer is about to really burn. That lawyer didn't do shit. All of them contradictions, man.
That part I agree with. Same thing with the Rick Child case. Like the state could have cooked his son as his eyewitness. They let his son. They took it easy on his son. His son was like all over the place, and they took it easy on his son.
Good grief. Good freaking grief, man. He didn't harp on all that stuff, and they're like, well, yeah, well, Karmelo was the aggressor. Okay, how? How was he the aggressor? Explain, please. Okay, I would have been like, okay, he's the aggressor. How so? He was sitting there minding his business. How was he the aggressor? Who came up to who first? Well, Austin. Okay, what did Austin say? Austin said move. Okay, what authority does Austin have to make him move? Are there any laws around this tent? Well, there's probably no. Where's the law? Show me the law. I would have ate all that shit up, dude. God. And I saw a little interview with the lawyer. He's like, well, I'm not as aggressive. I'm not a bulldog like many other lawyers. I'm more laid back and I really focus on the law. Oh, God, why did they hire this guy? Why did they hire this guy? The hell are you talking about?
Yeah, gotta research your lawyer, man. Gotta research your lawyer. You need a bulldog lawyer. Okay, especially for this case. Well, with 21 witnesses lying, yeah, you need a bulldog lawyer. That's crazy. He said that.
Man, I would have ate that up. Day information. Are you insane? Are you a white supremacy? You're out your mind. I got your boy Jared off the internet. I debated his ass off the internet. He can't even get on the internet no more. I ran your white supremacist hero off the internet, sir. You understand?
He's talking about Jared Taylor when they had a debate. Yeah, Jared Taylor took an L. He looked it bad. That was a big knock on team white supremacy. So they said, yo, come off the internet, man. Come off the internet.
That's why you're in here now trolling under a fake account. You can't even stand on business. You can't even stand on business. Man. Yeah, in real life, yeah, that troll shit don't work. Yeah, he wasn't objecting to none of that stuff. But yeah, this whole thing about why didn't he leave? That's that Rosa Parks shit. Why don't you just get up? Yeah, that's that Jim Crow back of the bus talk. They're telling us we got to get up and move. Listen, I want y'all to understand something. That has never been about spatial logistics. That's about the exertion of dominance and control over Black bodies. Asking a person to move, that's a compliance test designed to reinforce a racial hierarchy. If you submit to that demand, you validate their manufactured authority, and it really doesn't stop. Do y'all understand that? See, there's this deputization of the average white citizen. See, the fundamental flaw in that whole he should have just moved argument is the underlying assumption that random white people possess some type of innate jurisdiction over Black people in public spaces. That's that Jim Crow shit. where every white person essentially functioned as an extension of the police state.
You know what? That should have been the closing argument right there. What he's actually saying right now, that should have been the closing argument of his lawyer. And this is why he did what he did, because of this is all triggering and traumatizing. You dig? That's why he felt like the way he felt and did what he did. That right there was a better closing argument than his actual real legal defense team. That's crazy. Tariq is freestyling, and that was a better psychological defense for Karmelo actions.
That's why they're not criticizing Karmelo Metcalf for what he did. Whiteness is deputized. Like, why are you not obeying whiteness? So when society blames Karmelo for not following orders of a white student who has zero authority over him, you're validating the illusion that a white person has the inherent authority to issue commands to a black person and expect total unquestioning obedience. And damn that. You understand? Same thing with Trayvon Martin. Then why didn't Trayvon just go home? Because he had a right to walk down the street from the store to his house when he felt like it. So you blame the aggressive, you blame the victim instead of the aggressive stalker who had a history of violence. And understand, man, if you go for that, it's a bottomless pit. This idea that just moving solves the problem, that's a dangerous fallacy, ladies and gentlemen, because the demand to move never actually stops. Listen, if Karmelo leaves the bleachers, then what stops the next white person from telling him to move from the concourse? And if he moves to the parking lot, what's stopping another white person from telling him to leave the premises entirely? What's stopping all the white people from you're just moving around like Where's Waldo? It never stops. Compliance doesn't buy you peace. It only emboldens the aggressor. Once you agree to be displaced, you give them the green light to continuously shrink your boundaries until you're erased altogether. You understand? That's Jim Crow. You got to go in that door over there. Oh, no. You got to drink from that water fountain. No, it's a control mechanism, ladies and gentlemen. See, that's what all that Karen bullshit is about, all these Karen videos, that systemic need to control foundational Black American movements. When they see, you see all of these Karens trying to police Black people at a public park, at a community pool, even in our own apartment buildings. We try to get into our own apartment building. Some Karen is like, hey, where do you live? Do you have a key?
Right. I was thinking about that when he was explaining how they feel like they deputize themselves. Hey, you got a guy from the tent. I thought about all that you about to say right now, and this could have been a closing argument to paint a picture. Like, yo, this is what we go through. So when we see a random white guy approach us and say, "You don't belong here. Get up out here," like all of that is factored in there. So we don't just think about that one statement by Ed McCain. All of that is on our mind prior to that. So when he says that, he just confirmed everything we already thought how they believe. So when he said, "Get up, cut your seat, and then leave," he just confirmed all of. I'm saying this is defense for Miller. He just confirmed what Miller already believed, but never acted on. And here it is, right in his face. So all of what he experienced and what he known and what he read, he think that's one right in front of him because of the actions. You know, one thing to say, "Hey man, you're on the team." You can laugh it off. "Hey man, you're the wrong team." They don't allow nobody another team over here, man. Go see what your team. Why had it be aggression? That's free space. They should ask the witnesses that. That's why they did a horrible job for examining. The witnesses, I would have gone ahead and so, something like a locker room. But normally when somebody is in another person's tent, sometimes they politely smile and ask, "Hey man, you bro, take it out of here." Joking way, or is it always hostile? Who the hell is that?
What's your apartment number? What? Who in the hell are you? I live here. I just want to know who you are. You have an ID? What? So they're trying to enforce these unwritten Jim Crow borders by telling black people that we don't belong and you try to order us to leave. You are provoking a conflict. And when black people rightfully refuse to submit to them arbitrary commands, the aggressor starts playing the damn victim, and they justify bringing in the state to punish the black people for non-compliance. So yeah, this is just Jim Crowism, ladies and gentlemen. See, they think this Karmelo case is going to strike this Jim Crow fear in us where we're going to go back and just start complying to their demands. I'm not. I don't give a shit what this thing says. You're not going to Jim Crow me. Now, I know we got some scared Negroes out here because I've seen a lot of buck dancing. I done seen a lot of grown-ass men with Karmelo, you know, just did what he was told. Okay, I'm not one of them, all right? I ain't one of them. I'm different. I ain't one of them punks. If you want to be a punk, wide pussy scared, knock yourself out. I ain't that. I ain't submitting to no damn body randomly walking up on me telling me where the hell I can and can't go. That's what it is. This shit don't scare me. Listen, that Jim Crow behavior, that's not just, you know, they think it's socially acceptable, but it's also financially incentivized. Listen, because you've seen instances where these white supremacists harass black kids or melanated kids at public parks, like that woman yelling the N-word at that black child. I think the kid was like Somali or something, creating a hostile environment. And then they rewarded her. They gave that woman almost like over $1 million for calling a black child the N-word at a park. You see? See, the white supremacists, they're rallying around each other. They're throwing money out there to Chud. He's raising almost $1 million. So they're on the march right now. So that shows that aggressive public harassment of black people is being sanctioned, protected, and it's a highly lucrative behavior in this society. See, that's that sundown town mentality, but they're doing it in broad daylight. See, historically, the white supremacists operated with absolute impunity when lynching black people for simply being in the wrong part of town after dark. See, that's what I'm saying. All of that move here, move there, it eventually says, okay, we get to lynch you if you don't move where we say you're going to move and you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. We get to punish you with impunity. See, the geography was the justification for the violence. You understand what I'm saying? Well, he was over here at this time, so yeah, we had to get him. The why don't he just leave narrative, that's a modern sanitized application of that whole sundown town mentality. Go read the book by James Lowen called Sundown Towns. I used to talk about that 20 years ago. I used to go deep into that book about how all around the United States, and most of these places were in the North, they would have unofficial rules where black people just couldn't come into town after 6 o'clock. That's where we get the whole street light thing. Y'all remember us growing up? Many of us.
What's that book called? Yeah, I missed it.
You understand what I'm saying? Well, he was over here at this time, so yeah, we had to get him.
Well, why it's called Sundown. What's the guy name? James something. Sundown. What's Sundown Town? What's the guy? James.
Just leave narrative. That's a modern sanitized application of that whole sundown town mentality. Go read the book by James Lowen called Sundown Towns. I used to talk about that 20 years
James Lowen, okay.
ago. I used to go deep into that book about how all around the United States, and most of these places were in the North, they would have unofficial rules where black people just couldn't come into town after 6 o'clock. That's where we get the whole street light thing. Y'all remember us growing up, many of us Gen Xers, get home before the street light came on? That's because of the sundown rules. There was an unofficial sundown rule. If you're a black person, you're out when the sun goes down, it was open season on you. You understand? So part of our culture was, hey, when you see the street light come on in the house. You know? James Lowen. His name is James Lowen. The book is called Sundown Towns. All right? The book is called Sundown Towns. And it talks about how these many towns around the United States would literally have signs saying, hey, Negro, don't let the sun come down on you in this town. Many of those places were up in the north, especially Illinois. They had a place called Anna, Illinois. Where are my Illinois people? Most of those places were actually in the north. That's the shocking part of the book. James Zorn was like, many people would assume that it was in the south. You did have sundown towns in the south, but most of them were in the northern cities. The north tries to act so liberal and all that. No. All over Michigan, all over Illinois. You had, Anna. Yeah, you know about Anna? ANNA. Anna, Illinois. They had a bell. They said the bell is still there. The bell would ring after 6 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock, that means all the black people should leave. There was a bell that rung there. They say that bell is still there, and they said Anna stood for ain't no N-words allowed. Yep, they said that was a massive sundown town. Anna, Illinois. Glendale out here, Glendale was a sundown town. Hawthorne was a sundown town. There was a lot of them out here. Ohio, yeah, there were places that black people could not go. You're not supposed to. Yep, Glendale was a major one. Hell, I remember back in the damn 90s, you drive through Glendale and get pulled over. We get pulled over in Glendale all the time. We try to avoid Glendale. Yeah. Yeah, get the book, Sundown Towns. Very good book. He breaks all that stuff down. So yeah, they try to dictate that there's invisible boundaries that black citizens are not allowed to cross without permission. And if you cross them and refuse to retreat when you're ordered, society dictates that whatever violence or criminalization happens to you, it's your own fault. So listen, the ultimate goal is subjugation, or it's not relocation. It's not move somewhere else. It's really do what I say as a white T man or a white T woman. See, demand to move is really about breaking your spirit. When they say, well, Karmelo should have just moved, they're saying, well, how come you just didn't submit to the white man? What they're saying is that black people, we always have to prioritize the comfort of white supremacists over your own right to exist peacefully in a public space. So we can't really negotiate with that ideology. See, yielding space is like yielding humanity. That's why defending our ground is not just a right, it's a necessity. That's why we have to dismantle all the frameworks in the court or wherever that allows everyday citizens to terrorize us for standing our damn ground. This is why this crime bill, we need to be a protected class. That's not an option. That is not an option.
I need some more work, baby, tonight. I need some more work on me tonight. I need some more work, baby, tonight. I need some more work on me tonight. I need some more work on me tonight. I need some more work, baby, tonight. I need some more work on me tonight. Yeah, yeah. I need some more work.
Folks, an altercation,
I'm trying to get y'all angles, so y'all know I ain't trying to push it. Only, hard lawyers. Going everybody that support Karmelo. Did Sharik. I tried to the other lady who's claimed she was a former prosecutor. Seeing it sound like one. Couldn't stop cursing. So Roland Martin, I want to see what he got to say. But yeah, man. Let's check it out. I was gonna say something. I lost train of thought. Matter of fact, let me. One second before I do that. Before I do that, let me peek inside the room real fast. Yeah. Yeah, the town, Johnny, the sundown towns is crazy, yo. Y'all can hear, right? Let me see. Make sure. Yeah, the audio's here. I was gonna say something. I lost. Oh, let's see what Roland got to say, because I want to know what the libtards are saying. Okay, let's see what the libtards got to say about this.
Folks, an altercation at a Texas track meet leaves a student dead and another student facing first-degree murder charges. This story has been blowing up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but has also gone national as a number of white conservatives are attacking the young black man who has been charged in this case. His name is Karmelo Anthony. They are demanding that he get everything thrown at him for what took place in the death of Aaron Metcalf. So let me unpack what happened here. Guys, roll a video. So understand, so 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony, this is him being released from jail, okay?
Hold on, before you go there, if you guys got a favorite celebrity, favorite singer, actor, actress, favorite content creator, and they ain't covered this story and give an opinion, y'all better ditch them. You would be hypocritical. How can you be so involved in the story and you have empathy for Karmelo Anthony, but you got somebody's favorite singer, actor, actress, rapper, and they don't speak on this at all. See, I can't do that. Like, I'm too real to like whoever I associate with or like, they better like what I like, or you get cut right off. If I'm into politics and I'm into it deeply, and I'm against a certain politician or whatever, we holding libtards responsible, and they on the other side. Yeah, I can't. No. I can't do that. Let me make sure it's saying old, because I didn't check the date. This is 1 year ago. No, I don't want that. They just something recently. Hold on. I didn't click this.
Clause of the Constitution.
What is this? I didn't click that.
Folks, an altercation at a Texas.
Yeah.
White peer institutions. And,
Oh, he's live now.
To me,
I'm trying to get a response on Karmelo. I know he ain't go live. Okay, this is it right here.
Guilty. That is a decision of an all-white jury in a Dallas suburb in the case of Karmelo Anthony, who was convicted of murder in the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf that took place at a track meet last year in Collin County. It took the jury less than 3 hours to find him guilty. Right now, they are now determining a sentencing phase. Karmelo Anthony's mother pleaded with the jurors to not sentence her son to a long prison sentence, but prosecutors say that's exactly what they want. Karmelo Anthony is 17 years old, was a student with a 3.7 grade point average when an fight escalated at a track meet in Collin County. Austin Metcalf and others approached under this tent and said that he didn't belong there and ordered Anthony pulled a knife out, stabbed him in the chest, and he fled. This case, of course, has gotten lots of attention. Austin Metcalf, white. Karmelo Anthony, black. This, of course, was a very contentious trial. Karmelo Anthony did not testify in the trial. That was a decision of the jury. And now, of course, it goes into the hands of the jurors to determine his fate. It is certainly a shocking turn of events. A legal analyst, Thelma Anderson, was in the courtroom, and she went back into the courtroom before they sent the jury out to consider his fate. And so we will have her live right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Once she is able to get out of court, the judge prohibited phones, computers, anything along those lines in the courtroom, even in the courthouse. And so we'll be waiting to hear back from her to get a sense of what is taking place. It is certainly a stunning story. Karmelo Anthony, a very bright young man, again, with a bright future. And now, as a result of this decision, he is looking at 5 to 99 years of life in prison. I want to bring in my panel right now, Dr. Mustafa Santiago Ali, former senior advisor for environmental justice at the EPA, joining us from D.C. Zabora G, DEIA consultant and employment specialist, also from D.C. Joy Chaney, founder of Joy Strategies, also from D.C. Glad to have all three of you here. Testimony of one of the individuals, Mustafa, said that one of the coaches said to Karmelo that after this took place, he said, your life will change forever. That is certainly the case. This, of course, took place a year ago. And here's this young man, 17 years old, tried as an adult, now found guilty of murder. And again, now the fate is in the juror's hand, in the judge's hands. Like we said, it could be as little as 5 years. It could be as many as 99 years. Prosecutors, they want a long sentence. I would not be shocked if they want a sentence of anywhere from 30 to 50 years for Karmelo Anthony. And certainly a sad story. Young man is dead, and this young black man, life may be over before it even gets started.
Yeah, I mean, both families are tragically impacted, and we need to make sure that we call that out. You know, we look at the statistics, right? We know that, unfortunately, half the men who are in prison right now or are incarcerated, whether in federal or state, dealing with life sentences are our brothers, you know, African-American men. And we also know that, I think it was the Prison Policy Institute once talked about that for black men who are under 25, they're often given longer sentences than any other groups that are.
Yeah, I don't know what just happened.
Any other groups that are out there. So he's facing an uphill battle in the sense of the history of this country and how sentencing is often more severe in relationship to our community. And also, you know, even if it's 20 years or 30 years once you get out, you still got to carry the stigma that's attached to being convicted of murder. So the thing that I'm continuing to do is to pray, right? Pray for both sides of the family, but also to understand the reality, unfortunately, of how we are seen and how we are often given these longer sentences. The last thing that I'll say, Roland, is that we also got to make sure that for our young men who are out there, often facing all kinds of difficult situations, often dealing with folks who maybe have bigotry or discrimination, we've got to also make sure that they understand the choices, those split-second choices, the impacts that they can have. We've got to learn to be able to de-escalate in these types of situations so that you can live another day, but not just live another day, but live another day.
As you can see, I'm trying to find someone that's legally a lawyer who believes that Karmelo should be found innocent. And I don't think we're gonna find that. I think people no, not yet. You gotta get your water bottle. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna find that because I believe the actions were not. Well, not me. I'm not me. I think lawyers don't believe that. That's why you're having a hard time finding anybody. I even went to Roland Martin, some old liberals, to see if anybody gonna feel like Karmelo should have been found not guilty. And people think other things. They think he didn't have a fair trial. They think the sentence is too long. You know, the charges is overcharged. All that what people thinking, right? But people are not arguing he shouldn't have been found guilty. Like nobody's arguing that. Nobody's. So I want you to pay attention to that. It's kind of just find me a lawyer. Like I give it to you guys. You guys find me a lawyer that believes Karmelo. Any lawyer, find me a lawyer that thinks he's innocent or should have been found not guilty. I'll give it to you guys. After this video, I'm gonna go to the chat. Give me a name of a lawyer.
Free so that you can be able to achieve all the things that are in front of you.
The prosecutors say, Zabora, that it was Karmelo who provoked the incident, even though it was Metcalf who shoved Karmelo. And the DA said that a shove should not be met with being stabbed. Shove should not be met with being stabbed in the chest. The defense said, hey, he was defending himself when he was surrounded by Austin Metcalf, his brother, and several others. And they argue that this was absolutely self-defense.
Well, I think that we have to look at the history of how Black men are charged in the court of law and how they're not seen like their white counterparts would be, right? I mean, at the end of the day, this individual pushed him and provoked him. So Karmelo should have been able to defend himself, but they don't look at our Black children like they want us to look at their white children. And we know that Black Americans are arrested at higher rates. We know that our defendants receive longer sentences, and we know that we are not given benefit of the doubt. So this could have easily been manslaughter versus murder, but the state is going to overcharge. The jury is not a jury of his peers. Everybody in that jury were white, so you don't get the.
Yeah, let me know when somebody say not guilty or acquittal. Like, see, if people are arguing that the charges were, just listen to what people are not saying, family. I'm trying to teach you guys how to recognize patterns. All right. So these are people who are sympathizing with Karmelo, empathizing, but nobody's saying he should have been let go scot-free.
Fair shot of this person actually being innocent until proven guilty. I don't know that there was enough evidence to show that it wasn't self-defense. And I don't think that Karmelo had a fair shot at a trial on this when we know what history has shown us. History has shown us that Black males are not treated in the same way that their white counterparts, white teens, would be treated in this instance. If this was two Black boys and one white teens would be treated in this instance. If this was two Black boys and one white boy, I think the conversation would be a whole lot different. And so I think we just need to really understand that how race is playing in this situation and how the media has portrayed Karmelo as some thug or some reprobate that isn't, was up to no good, when in reality, this was his school. These kids didn't go there. It was a lot of different situations that could have prevented this. And I just feel that, we need to really understand how the system is just having a miscarriage of justice for our young Black men.
Joy, as Mustafa said, a split-second decision now is going to have lifelong consequences. The father, Austin Metcalf, forgave Karmelo Anthony. Karmelo Anthony's parents obviously aggrieved. According to witnesses, Karmelo, once the jury verdict came down, was crying uncontrollably and was shaking at the defense table, as that's what one would expect when a 17-year-old bound for college hears that he is guilty of murder.
Right. I mean, this was a fight between two boys. And I think for anyone out there listening, look at your sons. My stepson just graduated from college, young, life full and ahead of him. I cannot imagine either for Austin's parents or Karmelo's parents. These are, a fight between boys with long range consequences. What I think is dissatisfying for all of us is that, as we know, Karmelo deserves some punishment for what happened here. Austin has paid the ultimate price for his role. We know that race is playing a role here in the charging, the decision to go murder. And we pray that there will be some mercy given as we're looking at the range here. Surely the facts of this case trend towards the lower end. This is not someone who is likely to reoffend. This is someone who can be rehabilitated. This is a life that can be saved. And so I hope if Austin's parents truly have forgiven Karmelo and truly understand that this was a fight that got out of hand with immature young men, that he will also speak and say, we don't want this to be a double tragedy, to be, amplified and complicated by a long sentence that will be problematic for everyone. This will be constantly something. Why not have this be a story of redemption and second chances? I really pray for that. This case screams for that. Everything about it seems to scream for that, and that it would just be a loss to both families if this is some long, unnecessary sentence here. This young man can be rehabilitated. He can be, he can serve his time, and he can come out and be able to live a full life, perhaps being able to share his lesson with other young men. Calm down. Don't, necessarily have weapons on you that are deadly, because a split second can end someone else's life and effectively yours.
Thelma Anderson, legal analyst, joins us right now. Thelma, give us a sense of what the courtroom was like and also what is happening outside that courtroom.
First and foremost, the one thing that I would ask for people to do at this moment is pray for the Anthony family, because they have been legally lynched for the last year, and more so by this slaughterhouse of a courthouse, as well as the family of the Metcalfs. So the energy right now is very white supremacy.
Okay, that's that same woman. Okay. You see how composed she is now? See, I'm good. I canceled her because she was cussing too much. Now look, she's on a platform where she got to be well behaved. And now we heard her out anyway. But I'm looking out for not the rhetoric. Oh, slaughterhouse, white supremacy. I want to see her explain how he should have got a not guilty verdict. I need that. Don't give me the rhetoric. Tell me, because we're trying to find out which lawyer believes he should have got a acquittal for self-defense. So I want to hear law. I'm not looking for opinions right now.
They have shown up to be the pigs that they display with hate. They are celebrating the loss of life and the loss of freedom. So that's the energy. We have a devastated family who didn't know that they was going to have to let their son go back into a holdover, because we have an overzealous prosecutor who lied throughout this trial, who put on liars as witnesses in order to be a saving grace for the white community so that they can win an election. That's what it feels like right now.
What's happening right now is the jury right now debating his sentencing?
Yes, the jury is debating his sentencing right now. We came out of sentencing, the opening and the closing of both the defense and the state, and now the jury is going to make a decision about what time they are going to give him.
Well, we've already seen what the prosecutor has made. We already seen the prosecutor made clear that he wants it to be a long sentencing.
What I heard from this man today is indicative of why it's important that it's indicative of why it's important that it's people that look like us that are in courtrooms like that. This man disregarded human life the entire trial. He invoked race. He equated Dallas County as being the ghetto opposed to Frisco being safe. they propagandaed a photo of the deceased with Black people around praying, saying this is community. They used us as a prop in order to pitch their lynching. This man has been known to be an overzealous prosecutor when it comes to us. He see us as what was the statement that free labor. That's what he see us as. So I'm not surprised that this prosecutor, who has unethical background, would get up there and ask for the max when he know that this was self-defense.
Well, folks, as we said at the top, Karmelo Anthony has been found guilty in a Collin County courtroom. He faces anywhere from 5 to 99 years in prison. The jury right now is deliberating what his sentencing is. Thelma, explain to folks how Texas works. If the jury settles on a sentence, does the judge have to accept that sentence? Can the judge offer his own sentence?
So in the state of Texas, when a defendant decides if it gets the punishment, they get to pick if they want to go before a judge or they want to go before a jury. There was no way in the God's hell that this individual was going to, his attorneys was going to allow him to go to this judge based off of his behavior. So he went to the jury.
That mouth is crazy.
The jury now determines, and they have the final say. A judge cannot come and undo if he thinks that it's too light. If he do, that's another constitutional violation and it's appealable if he decides to overthrow what a jury has decided, even though he's given them permission to do their job. So whenever in a criminal justice, whenever in a trial, they get to pick who sentenced them if it gets to that point. And Karmelo Anthony selected the jury. And let's hope that this judge, who has been doing any and everything behind jury, and let's hope that this judge, who has been doing any and everything behind closed doors that we don't see, don't invade the province of the jury and allow them to do their job.
All right, Thelma Anderson, we really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. We'll wait to hear what this jury decides. All right, folks, let me tell you about Chapter. Now, if you're on Medicare or about to be, the system is not set up to work for you. Too much fine print, too many plans, and too many people making money off of your confusion. And look, we're used to this. We're no strangers to systems that don't have our best interests at heart. But we don't have to accept it when it comes to Medicare. That's why I'm telling you about Chapter. Their advisors are independent and honest. In fact, they're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide. And they're focused on one thing: what works for you. If there's a better plan out there, they'll find it. If you're already in the right one, they'll tell you that too. There are no games. Just last year, people who switched with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. It's 20 minutes and a real person. It's completely free. My parents actually have already called. My mom sent me a text. Folks, give Chapter a call at 724-264-8281, 724-264-8281, and connect with someone you can trust. Folks, these are the kind of services that we need for our audience here at Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network. So call Chapter, Roland Martin Unfiltered and the Black Star Network.
Yeah, she seems very hostile. You feel me? I want to know what her background is. Like, why she's so fucking mad. You see the chat got going on before I close it down. Hey, yo, we deserve better. Okay, we don't deserve the cuss words and all that. Like, we gotta stop letting our own do that to us, and we gotta stop letting non-FBA do that to us. We deserve clean language. We deserve clean communication. I don't like that, because you see the J-Lo's do it, not J-Lo, but you know, the Nicki Minaj's and Cardi B's, the J-Lo's too. You see all the non-FBAs, they like to talk to us like we deserve that type of talking to. Like it can never be professional, educational, scholarly. You gotta always be ratchet when they talk to us. So I don't like that. So when she over here, mother, are you FBA? My question for her is, are you even FBA? Like, why are you talking to us like that? Big. I don't like that, man. I preach black excellence. And look what nobody mentioned. Everybody we heard, even Dennis Perlin, not one person argued how we deserve an anti-black crime bill. Not one person. So I was pointing that out to you guys. I said, listen to everybody. Listen to everybody argument. Watch how nobody points out that we deserve a bill. I told you that. I said they're gonna say a lot of things. They're gonna have a lot of opinions, mixed opinions. Some gonna root for Karmelo, some gonna say it's the law. But what they all gonna have in common, that none of them are gonna use their platforms to argue for an anti-black crime bill. And was I right? None of them. You only heard that from Tariq Nasheed mouth, followed up by mine. Everybody else ain't mentioned it at all. Nobody mentioned Freak Lock. Is Ricardo an actual man? His ideals of self-defense are from a feminine mind. Well, self-defense is either, I mean, it's documented. Like each state has the autonomy and the governments to define how you're able to defend yourself. Ordinary defense and also deadly force, right? So it's not about if something can perform it or not. It's about, is he right or wrong? Is that the law? Our opinions mean nothing. Like our opinions about self-defense mean nothing. Our opinions on drug charges means nothing. The only thing that matters is what's the law, and is the law constitutional? If it's not constitutional, you can get that changed and sentence, and you will be either exonerated if the law is unconstitutional. Right? So it's not about does it sound feminine. You want to ask everybody, is that the law of South Carolina, Texas, and New York? You feel me? California. You want to know, is it the law or it ain't? If it's the law and you don't like it, you think it's unconstitutional, then challenge the law. Bring the attention to the law. You dig? That's the goal. It's about solution, baby. Or I say solutions. My name is Mr. Solution. Unbiased Ron, formerly Unbiased Ron, newly Mr. Solution. A play on words. Solution, but solution. I'm about giving solutions now. Forget about unbiased opinions. It's about answers. Mr. Solution is my name. So family, don't forget, the opinion stage is over. He did. He got a pill. Hopefully it work out for him. But we're in a solution state. How can we prevent this going forward? Okay, and the best course of action is that FBA crime bill. You did it, the anti-FBA crime bill. All of us should be arguing for that. We should only be talking about that. Anything else is uncivilized and off code. Peace, family. Love you guys. I'm at the park shooting around. I'm feeling like I still got it. I know I still got it. I'm feeling like I got hoop dreams. You dig? Yeah, I'm gonna get those glasses. I'm gonna get those camera glasses. Y'all gonna see me shooting around. I'm 100% get those.